What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
15 MP. Chapter 371. Masked Legion joins the battle. The powerful combat power of the masks is amazing. Advertise here. It's just that this strength is still strong, and those who will be hollow at this time have already begun to split up. Lisa and Hiyori, the two came to Toshiro's side to confront Haribel. Hachigen came to Shattered Bee and Yamada to confront Baylor Gang. Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa came to Stark. And Hiroko Shinji came to Aizen Sōsuke's side. In this way, several masks were matched with a spot brought by Aizen Sōsuke. Xiao Xia and Hai Shiri, who came to spur Toshiro, looked at Haribel in front of them and said with disdain. Is this guy that difficult to deal with? You haven't beaten him after playing for a long time. Sugaya Toshiro saw the two girls come to him, and they looked like they were open. Some shy sputin Toshiro said there. It's that my strength is indeed not strong enough, nor can it be completely killed. HMPH, you still have a little bit of self-knowledge at last. Actually, when you look so short, you know that you won't be too strong. Hearing what Hiyori said, Toshiro angrily said there, aren't you the same short? Why are you laughing at me? Can I be like you? I'm a very powerful person, one. Looking at the unreasonable little girl in front of him, Sputin Toshiro was also speechless by Hiyori. And Lisa, who was standing next to him at the moment, said, you two little guys are arguing there first. I will meet him first. Speaking of Lisa, she flew towards Haribel. After seeing him, Lisa flew over. Hiyori no longer quarreled with Toshiro there, holding a long knife and rushed towards Haribel. Haribel looked at the three people there with a flat expression at the moment and said, 1 on 3, it's a bit interesting now. Lisa didn't say much that it was a stab at going up, wearing a school uniform and a pair of black-rimmed glasses, but the shot was unequivocal. Lisa's attack was blocked by Haribel, but Lisa did not stop, bending her elbow and hitting Haribel, but Haribel blocked it. Then Haribel kicked him at Lisa's waist, and Lisa quickly stepped back. At this time, Ri Shili also flew over and slashed towards Haribel from top to bottom. Haribel waved his shark knife and flew out of Hoshiri, then turned his head and waved a knife to block the attack of Spurya Toshiro who was rushing over. After a few moves, the offensive of the three men was all blocked. Hiyori and Lisa, who were standing on both sides, looked at Haribel who was standing in the middle. At this time, they all seemed a little surprised. I didn't expect Haribel's strength to be so powerful that it could actually block the attack of the three. Just when the three of them were shocked by the strength of the juniors. Haribel shot in time and rushed towards Hisari. Hoshiri quickly raised his long sword to resist it, but it was a bit slow. At this time, Toshiro Sakura appeared in front of Hisari, and the sword fended off Haribel's attack. Hichiri was watching there, Toshiro, standing in front of him, shouting loudly, who told you to be nosy? It broke my plan. There, Toshiro also said angrily, can you figure it out? I saved you just now. I don't need you to save it, you little man. What did you say? I said you are a little dwarf, why are you still not convinced? You are not much taller than me. Huh, you are a little dwarf anyway. While the two were still arguing there, Lisa and Haribel fought together. But Lisa without Hollow seemed a little unable to withstand Haribel's attack and took the lead. Was hit by Haribel. Seeing that Lisa was beaten back, Ri Shiri and Toshiro stopped quarreling at this time, and the three stood together. Haribel pointed his big knife forward, a huge stream of water shot out, and the three of them dodged aside. Fight with Wang Wang Zhao, Haribel again. The wind blows here, and it is very lively. The other side is here at Baylor Gang, but it is very quiet. Hachigen, who came to Shattered Bee, seemed to know Shattered Bee. Say hello to Shattered Bee, but Shattered Bee seems to be having a holiday with Hachigen and is reluctant to talk to him. The specific reason is only clear to them. Yamada standing next to him, looking at the burly Hachigen, seems to be quite powerful. Where are you guessing who this person is? When Yamada saw Hachigen greet his captain, Smashing Bee, but Smashing Bee ignored him. Chapter 372, Bellagang's Death Fog. Advertise here. At this moment, Yamada said very excitedly, Captain. Do you really know such a powerful person? When did you meet again? Why didn't I know? When Broken Bee heard what Yamada said, he no longer thought about it. As a result, Broken Bee punched Yamada in the face. Yamada was also immediately knocked to the ground by his captain Shattered Bee. It is also fortunate that Yamada, who has a hard and thick skin, did not suffer much injury. Yamada might be hit by the captain Smashing Bee every time because of this. However, Baylor, who was resurrected at this time, just watched the three of them and smiled. You three guys, since you dare to challenge the Supreme Emperor. Then let you know today the cost of doing this. At this time, the burly Hachigen was there watching Baylor just said it. 667. Just now, when Broken Bee Bankai, I already saw the shell flying towards you. You use your abilities to age the missile. Then let him explode next to him. In fact it didn't hurt you at all, right? Hearing Hachigen's analysis, Baylor just nodded there just now. Your mind is indeed very clever. You did not expect you to guess something like this. What you said is right, the attack of the Broken Bee just now did not hit me. So it is you who are dead now. As soon as Baylor finished speaking, he yelled there. Death poison fog. I saw a purple-black mist around Baylorgang's body. And the place where the mist passes. Everything is reduced to ashes. This is the death poison that can make people CDEJ age. And Zhaofeng's hand was chopped off because of the poison of death. Just when the poison of death began to float towards the broken bee, I saw Hachigan folded his palms together, and what was muttering in his mouth. Around the fog of Baylorgang's death, a layer of enchantment suddenly appeared to envelop the fog of death. Seeing Hachigan's ability, Yamada yelled loudly there. Uncle, you are so amazing. I didn't expect you to be able to do such a thing. The broken bee next to him even started to be surprised, although he didn't want to pay attention to Hachigan. However, Zhao Bo Zan's ability of Shattered Bee is more recognized. It was thought that the poison was controlled, they would be safe. But Baylorgang laughed again in it. What about naive people? Do you think this simple Keto seal can stop the poison of my death? Be aware that Keto will get old too. As soon as Baylor said, he saw that Hachigan displayed the barrier, began to be corroded by the poison of death a little bit, and then slowly turned to ashes. This made Hachigan, Broken Bee, and the big Yamada next to them shocked. At this time, the mist had drifted in front of them. Hachigan, Shattered Bee, and Yamada quickly used instantaneous transfers. While Hachigan retreated, he kept pressing his palms together, releasing a wall to block the approach of the mist. Hachigan moved quickly, and a huge wooden wall had been formed in front of Baylorgang. Hachigan posted a few more layers behind the curtain wall. On the other side of the curtain wall, Baylor just looked at the curtain wall in front of him, and he was quite surprised. Unexpectedly, you could actually do such a thing and complete it in such a short time. Still relatively powerful, but do you think such a thing can withstand the attack of aging? As soon as his voice fell, these thick curtain walls began to be penetrated by fog. At this time, Zhaofeng and Yamada had retreated far away, and Hachigan, who was in front of this group of curtain walls, retreated to Shattered Bee's side. Then he said to Broken Bee, I need you to use Bankai again, what conditions can you mention casually? After the two reached an agreement, Hachigan began to constantly change gestures. And every time Yu Zhao used Bo Zan to change a gesture, something similar to a door appeared beside Bai Lagang. After Hachigan changed 4 operations, 4 doors formed a square barrier in 4 directions around Baylorgang's body. Baylor just did the same and laughed there. Unexpectedly, you are so stupid. You have seen the poison of my death twice. Thinking of trapping me here with the power of a seal is just wishful thinking. It seems that I thought you were too smart. At this time, Hachigan said flatly there, this time, let you feel the power of that missile up close. Speaking of a sealed door next to Hachigan, a small hole suddenly opened, and then Zhaofeng appeared there carrying a missile. Baylor just saw the Broken Bee's missile, and suddenly became nervous. Chapter 373. The friends of the past are always facing each other. Advertise here. You bastards, actually use such a despicable move. Before Baylor had just finished speaking, the missile of Broken Bee had flown out. While flying out, he shouted, Hachigan, what you promised me must be done, otherwise you will know the consequences. Hachigan smiled at the Broken Bee and said, don't worry, I will do it. The missile exploded near Baylorgang in the enchantment. Even the powerful barrier gates were blasted apart, and flames were everywhere inside. At this time, Hiroko Shinji looked at Ichimaru Jin in front of him. It seems that one of your people has died. Ichimaru Jin said a pity. After speaking, the two people got together. At this moment, Tusen Kanami and his friend Captain Komamura are facing each other. Tusen Kanami and the captain of the village are very good friends, but it never occurred to him that Tusen would betray Shinigami. Although Captain Kashiwamura didn't know what was the reason. First, Leddu changed his original intention and chose to take refuge in Aizen Sōsuke. But as a former friend, Captain Kasiwa village decided to save his partner in his own way. Tusen Kanami pointed at the captain of the village and said, since I have already chosen, I won't look back again. Don't try to make me change my mind. Tusen Kanami's words left Captain Kasiwa village there for a moment, and then his eyes became firm. Village Chief Kasiwa looked at Tusen Kanami and said, I don't want to change you anymore, but I want to stop you and reduce your sins to a minimum. Tusen Kanami also looked at the captain of the Pai village and said, you were my friend for many years, and I know your strength very well. Now you are not my opponent at all. If you don't want to die by my side, please leave as soon as possible. Hearing Tusen Kanami's words, Captain Komamura took a step forward, and then drew his big knife. Looking at Tusen Kanami, he said, even if you die in front of you. Do your best to stop you. Well, in that case, there is nothing to say. Just as the two were about to fight, suddenly another person rushed out from the side. The man said in a weak voice, Pat the captain of the village, please let me participate in this battle. Captain Komamura looked at Gun Samu, who had just been healed by Kira, and was really surprised. You are wrong, Tusen Kanami. Looking at this former subordinate, there was no change in his expression. Tusen Kanami said, people at the peak are definitely not my opponents, why bother? Now that someone has been seriously injured, isn't it good to heal the injury there? As a former captain, I have learned a lot from yours. I always thank you in my heart. Quote. It doesn't make much sense to say this now. I know, but I have always wanted to tell you these things. Now our positions are different. I will use what I have learned from you to defeat you and prove your choice is wrong. Hearing Gun Samu's words, Dong Shenxian would say there, Kim Samu, do you know fear? If you don't really understand the meaning of fear, you won't become really strong. Now I am in yours. I didn't see any fear on my face, I couldn't beat me. Just like Tusen Kanami said. Gun Samu was not his opponent at all, and flew to the ground with 2 swords. For flowers. Although he did not receive any fatal injuries, Gun Samu was seriously injured. This time he was hit again and he passed out into a coma. And Tusen Kanami did not pay attention to Gun Samu at the moment, because behind Tusen Kanami there was a powerful Captain Komamura waiting for him to fight him. Captain Komamura sighed when he saw Gun Samu had been defeated. Captain Komamura knew this would happen a long time ago, but he didn't stop it, because one had the consciousness of death to do something. If the captain of the filming village tried to stop it, it would be really unreasonable. Looking at Tusen Kanami, the village captain looked very angry. He is your former subordinate, and he is merciless towards his subordinates. Tusen Kanami said. After you have chosen, why not hesitate? You are right, shoot the village. Hearing Tusen Kanami's words, Captain Komamura was taken aback, then nodded there and said, you are right, Tusen Kanami, now that you have made your choice, there is no need to hesitate. Whether it's right or wrong. Just go all out. He rushed to Tusen Kanami, and the two hit each other. The two former friends are very familiar with each other's strengths, but Tusen Kanami's strength has been rapidly improved in Aizen Sōsuke, and he has become much stronger. Therefore, the battle between Komamura and Tusen Kanami suddenly felt a bit difficult, and both of them were fighting hard there. At this moment, there was smoke in the barrier, Hachigen, Broken Bee, and Yamada outside the barrier, and the 3 people thought that Baylor was bound to die. But they heard a voice from inside the barrier. At this moment, the broken enchantment had begun to be turned into ashes by the purple-black poisonous mist. Where? Chapter 374. My ability is unique. Baylor is just dissatisfied with Aizen. Advertise here. After the smoke cleared, Baylor had just appeared in front of them again. Bailagang's skeleton has been blown up in half. He turned into a skeleton, now looking very embarrassed, but he did not die. Baylor just looked at Hachigen angrily and the 3 of them roared loudly. It's really unreasonable, you dare to treat the gods like this. I must make you pay the price. Quote. With that said, Baylor had just begun to release his own death poison. But this time Broken Bee and Yamada hid further away. There is Akitaba's 667. Zon desperately using his own barrier to block there, and summoning his own mask, the speed has increased a lot. But for the angry Baylor gang, neither the barriers nor the missiles just now could stop him and kill him. How could Hachigen's barrier now be able to withstand the attack of Baylor gang's poisonous gas? Hachigen fell into a huge crisis in an instant. And the Shattered Bee and Yamada who were hiding in the distance had nothing to do, because they couldn't save him even if they were close to Hachigen now. On the contrary, he will take his own life in. The poison that can make people age and die is too powerful. Broken Bee has already learned it, and the loss of an arm has always reminded him. Be very careful not to touch the purple-black mist. But now the fog has forced Hachigen to the point of irreversibility. In a hurry, Hachigen released another barrier wall. But Baylor's anger caused the poison gas to penetrate the barrier wall like a spray gun. Swarms of poison are like giant snakes, constantly penetrating the barrier wall. Shooting at Hachigen from various positions, Hachigen has no room to fight back at the moment. And the surroundings have been completely sealed off. At this time, Hachigen's hand was accidentally touched by the purple-black poison. Feeling the pain at hand, what did Hachigen suddenly think of? Hachigen put his hand back behind him. At this time, Baylor was still there and shouted loudly, my ability is unique. It is above all things. Everything will age. Of course you are no exception. The barriers in this area will also age. As long as everything in this world exists, everything in this world will age, so my ability is invincible. You want to challenge me, you are simply seeking your own death. Just as Baylor was talking endlessly, suddenly an imaginary circle appeared in his stomach. He didn't understand, so Bear just looked down at the circle in his abdomen, which seemed to be a space. Baylor just looked at Hachigen and said, did you do this? Hachigen smiled there and said with a calm expression, since your ability is above all things, then I am thinking about your body, which is already a skeleton, why can it not be affected by your ability? Hearing Hachigen's questioning, Baylorgang was there for a moment, his expression was obviously flustered. Seeing Baylorgang's expression, Hachigen knew he had guessed the answer. Even if you don't say it, I already know that there must be a substance on the surface of your body that can withstand this ability that is above all things. But if I put this ability in your body, what will you do? What did you say? Put it inside me, how did you do it? At this moment, Baylor just noticed Hachigen's right hand behind him. Your right hand, what happened to your right hand? Only when Shattered Bee and Yamada stood behind Hachigen did they see what Hachigen did in an instant. When Hachigen put his right hand behind him, he immediately used the enchantment and teleported his arm into the abdominal space of Baylorgang. At this time, the purple-black mist had completely turned the right hand in the abdomen of Baylorgang's body to ashes. And the power of the enchantment that sealed the right hand also gradually disappeared. The poison of death broke out in Bai Gang's body, and immediately swallowed most of Bai Gang's body. The resentment in Baylor Gang's heart, feeling his body, slowly disappeared. Baylor just roared immediately. You bastard, you did such a thing to me. I will never let you go. I thought that Baylor Gang would disappear completely because of the death fog placed in his body. But I didn't expect that only half of the upper body and one arm were left, and the 4.9-headed Baylor Gang could actually attack there. Hachigan, who had broken his right arm at this time, had no ability to stop Baylor Gang. I saw that Baylor had just raised his death axe high and threw it forward forcefully. I thought that the target of the attack was his own Hachigan, but he was already standing there waiting to die. But what I didn't expect was that the big axe flew past it, and then flew towards Aizen Sōsuke standing there in the distance. Aizen Sōsuke of damn it, you have taken everything from me, I must kill you and regain the throne. Chapter 375, Bellagang's Death. Stark loses fighting spirit. Advertise here. It turned out that what Baylor had just before dying was not Hachigan in front of him, but Aizen Sōsuke in the distance. There is always a kind of hatred in Bellagang's heart, which is the unforgettable hatred for Aizen Sōsuke. Just because of his strength, Baylor Gang has always kept this hatred in his heart. But it is this hidden hatred that makes Shubai Gang even more hate Aizen Sōsuke. As the king of Hueco Mundo, Baylor had just possessed the supremacy of most. But when Aizen Sōsuke came to Baichingong and after he defeated Baylor, Baylor immediately took refuge in Aizen Sōsuke. Although he has gained a powerful force, Baylor Gang's heart is always full of hatred for Aizen Sōsuke 23. Because Aizen Sōsuke snatched Baylor's throne in Hueco Mundo. Now when he is dying, Baylor has just thrown his final axe. I was struggling to express my hatred, but the axe completely collapsed far away from Aizen Sōsuke. And that axe completely collapsed, and Baylor Gang's body, and his unwilling words. When only the last crown fell to the ground, fell to pieces and disappeared. The king who was once in Hueco Mundo, now the second Espada is completely dead. Hachigan, Broken Bee, and Yamamoto saw that Baylor had finally been killed, and took a long breath. The captain is really great, this guy finally died, he is really terrible. Uncle, both you and the captain lost an arm, but it was worth killing this awesome guy. Don't worry, what I have is money. I will make you a fake arm at that time. It will not be much worse than your own arm. Hearing Yamamoto chattering endlessly there, Broken Bee slapped Yamamoto's face with his remaining right arm. Yamamoto was knocked to the ground again, and at this moment, the battlefield on this side was over. Ichimaru Jin said slowly, oh, I didn't expect that Baylor was actually killed. He glanced at Aizen Sōsuke who was standing there, but there was no response. At this time, Hirako Shinji slashed over and looked at Ichimaru Jin and said, where are you looking? If you are distracted by fighting with me, be careful that I cut you in half every minute. Ichimaru Jin laughed and said, with your strength, if you don't hollow, I'm afraid it would be difficult to touch my body. You have to cut me in half. Haven't you seen me for so many years? Your ability to speak big has grown a lot. Ha ha ha, whether it's a big talk, you will know in a moment. Talking that the two people hit each other again. At this time, number 1 Stark, who was standing not far away, also saw the end of No. 2 Baylor Gang. Stark looked back, Aizen Sōsuke who was standing there didn't seem to feel anything, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. As Espada, although he doesn't have any deep feelings for Baylor Gang and others, he is not even a friend. But seeing the end of Baylor Gang's death, Aizen Sōsuke didn't even feel sorry for it. This made him feel a little bit chill in Stark's heart. There he said to himself, is it really not at all? My subordinate died, and there was no reaction at all. Lilinite, who was fused with it, also said there, Stark, don't talk to yourself there, be careful that they attack. Lilinite said that they were Love Akawa and Odoribashi Rojiro in the mask. One was combing his explosive head, and the other was dressed like a gentleman. They rushed towards Stark with their weapons. Because of the death of Koji, Stark has no fighting spirit now. When fighting with Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa, there was no energy. This is anxious for Lily Knight, who has just merged with Baylor. There he reminded him loudly, Stark, you are serious, 667 otherwise we will be killed. Stark didn't speak there, he was always thinking about something, and Lilinette, who was the gun in his hand, was at the moment. Angrily reminded that Stark, Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa are very powerful. But they know that they are the number 1 in Espada, so powerful they can't imagine. At this time Love Akawa began to sing, smash it. Tengumaru. I saw the knife in Love Akawa's hand suddenly turned into a huge sledgehammer like a fairy hall. That hammer is as high as 2 people and as wide as 1. The weight of such a huge hammer can be imagined. The shape of this hammer looks more like a mace, with spikes on it. Love Akawa held it in his hand and looked very light. That's because Love Akawa was so powerful that it could tear Jillian with bare hands. So pick up this hammer, as if nothing is insignificant. Chapter 376. Unkillable Blue Wolf. Advertise here. I saw Love Akawa wielding this sledgehammer, constantly attacking Stark, who was standing there, not knowing what he was thinking. Stark could only evade and didn't fight back because he was unwilling to fight back. But Stark didn't want to die like this, so he kept avoiding Love Akawa's attacks like this. At the same time, Odoribashi Rojiro also cooperated with Love Akawa to attack Stark. The cooperation of the two people was still a tacit understanding. Stark couldn't dodge, and Love Akawa hit the ground with a hammer. Stark, who was lying there, seemed unwilling to fight again. It was Lilinite who was next to Stark, who was always opening him. Lilinite's words reminded Stark of the enemies he encountered when fighting with her in the past. All died in front of him and Lilinite. Before that, Stark thought it was because he felt lonely that Lilinite appeared. With Lilinite, Stark felt that he would have company. Stark remembered how he met Aizen Sōsuke. At that time, Aizen Sōsuke was very strong, so strong that he couldn't beat him. Because the imaginary people close to him had been killed by Aizen Sōsuke, he was so alone in Stark. But after meeting Aizen Sōsuke, Stark finally met someone he couldn't kill. Since then, Stark is no longer alone, following Aizen Sōsuke's demons, becoming the #1 Espada. Lilinite shouted loudly. Aizen Sōsuke, trust us so much, we should not let down. If the second death makes you feel uncomfortable, then we can take revenge for him with our strength. Hearing Lilinite's words, Stark, who had been listless, finally cheered up, raised the gun in his hand, and began to fight back. Although it was a bit stronger than before, it still didn't show the true strength of Stark. Once again, Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa joined forces and hit the ground. Although he was not unharmed, Lilinite, who became a gun with Stark, was completely angered. Lilinite started shooting on her own terms, but without Stark's control, her shooting had no accuracy at all. Sero is constantly shooting around. At the moment, Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa standing in the sky. Stark were puzzled. Where did this guy shoot the gun? Is it because you beat him silly? Stop nonsense, Odoribashi Rojiro, is it obvious that the gun is not under his control? Is he attacking? It's strange, and you didn't hear it. He seems to be talking. I heard it too, it's really weird. The two of them were still there looking at Stark strangely, studying his weapon. Stark's side was finally shaken by Lilinite's anger and returned to its original state. You're right, it's Lilinite, I think too much. The most important thing right now is to defeat these two people in front of me. Lilinite finally stopped shooting, and then said there. That's right, Stark, show them the colors and let them know how good they are as the #1 Espada. Good. Stark stood up slowly at this time, and then flew upwards. Love Akawa didn't dare to neglect, and raised the sledgehammer to hit Stark. But they suddenly found that Stark, who was standing in front of them, disappeared. When they realized, they saw him. Stark had already arrived in the air behind them. And behind Stark, a blue wolf with blue flames appeared there. Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa were taken aback. Love Akawa said there, Odoribashi Rojiro, do you see it? At this time, Odoribashi Rojiro's expression also became serious. I saw it. The two guns in Odoribashi Rojiro's hands disappeared, and their expressions became very serious. Because they saw the changes in Stark, they knew that Stark had begun to get serious. At this moment Stark pointed forward. Offensive. The pack of wolves began to attack Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa. And Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa brandished their weapons and began to attack them. But after those blue wolves were hit, although they disappeared, after Wang Zhao's disappeared, they gathered and formed themselves again. It's like illusion, completely unkillable. Those blue wolves ran to them quickly, bit their bodies, and a violent explosion occurred in an instant. In the smoke of the explosion, two figures rushed out. They looked very embarrassed. Love Akawa looked at Odoribashi Rojiro and said, Are you okay? Odoribashi Rojiro. Fortunately, nothing happened, just a slight injury. Love Akawa shouted loudly there. Odoribashi Rojiro, I already know what's going on with his blue wolf. Those green wolves were all transformed from Sero, and they should be the magazines in his gun. Chapter 377. Hiraku Shunsui and Stark. Espada lose first. Advertise here. Once you come near us, there will be an explosion, so be careful. Where Odoribashi Rojiro nodded, the two men dodged the chase of the blue wolves against them. And at the moment, standing there motionless, watching the blue wolf attack the two people, Stark shook his head there. They are not vanity at all, your powerful strength, the average Sero can't kill you at all. They are just my soul splitting, forming an independent individual, becoming my weapon and following me all the time. It can be said that they are me and I am them. Without speaking, the green wolves continued to rush towards Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa quickly. The two quickly dodged, but they still couldn't stand the siege of the pack of wolves, and were finally caught up by these blue wolves. Surrounded by them, after a burst of explosion 670, Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa fell below the statues, and they fell on the ground, half kneeling there and panting heavily. Obviously a little exhausted, although they did not receive a fatal blow, it was impossible for them to defeat Stark anymore. Seeing them panting, Stark slowly fell from the air. When Stark's foot stepped on a platform on the ground, suddenly a long knife pierced Stark's back and pierced Stark's chest. Stark stood there motionless, staring at the long knife in his chest. Slowly turning around, I saw in his shadow at this time, the band leader Beijing slowly stood up. Stark was surprised when he saw the band leader Jing being stabbed with a long knife. The band leader Kyo drew his long knife back and looked at Stark there. Stark spit out a mouthful of blood, then looked at the band leader in front of him and said, "Is this your ability? Able to hide in the shadows?" The band leader of Beijing shook his head there and said, "This is not my ability, but the ability of my double swords." At the moment, Otoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa, who were half kneeling there, were finally relieved. At this time, Stark was seriously injured and flew into the air. But before he could fly high enough, the band leader Beijing had already crossed the top of Stark's head and chopped it off. Immediately flashing to the side, Stark knew that the band leader Jing was very powerful, and his double sword ability was also very strange. Making Stark unpredictable for a while, the band leader Jing succeeded in a sneak attack, causing Stark's body to be severely injured. And now Lilonite, who has become a soul blue wolf, said worriedly there at this moment, "Stark, are you okay?" Stark shook his head and said, "It's okay. How could it be okay? Obviously I have suffered such a serious injury. I said nothing would be fine." At this time, Lily Knight, who turned into a pack of wolves, was very angry about the incident that the band leader Jing pierced Stark's body. Lily Knight rushed forward, CDEJ, to attack the band leader in Beijing. However, the hurricane that was chopped out by the band leader's double knives swept out. The band leader Jing said there, "It seems that the talking gun has become these wolves, right? That little girl is these wolves." Stark didn't speak, just looked at the band leader Jing like that. At this moment, the band leader Jing faced the attack of these wolves and beat them with hurricanes cut with long knives. It's very strange that the blue wolf wiped out by the band leader of Beijing's hurricane will not reappear. This is also the ability of the double sword. Stark suddenly became nervous when he saw the declining blue wolf. Yelled, "Lilonette, stop attacking, come back quickly." At this time, there were only 3 green wolves by Lily Knight's side, and Stark was very worried there. "Lily, don't fight him anymore, you can't beat him." But at this moment Lily Knight was very angry. He didn't listen to Stark's words, and rushed towards the band leader Jing. The band leader Jing issued a hurricane again, and the 3 blue wolves disappeared. "Lilonette, Lilonette." Stark called Lily's name there, but no green wolf appeared beside him, and no Lily answered him. Stark felt loneliness hitting him again, and Stark knew he would be alone from now on. Looking at the band leader Beijing, with a wave of both hands, 2 blue lightsabers appeared in his hands. So he rushed towards the band leader Jing, and Stark already had a little understanding of the band leader's double knife ability. At this time, facing the band leader in Beijing, they were fighting each other there. However, it may be because of the loss of Lily Knight's relationship, or the relationship that Aizen Sōsuke had been indifferent to know. 2 Espada. Stark's spirit can't be mentioned, coupled with the successful surprise attack by the band leader, his strength is not as good as before. Stark was finally cut in the chest during a battle with the band leader Jing, and then fell to the ground. The number 1 Espada was also defeated. Chapter 378. Aizen's Fierceness. Tusen Konami's Super Regeneration. Advertise here. At this time, there is only the 3rd Espada Haribel who is fighting against Toshiro and the others, and it seems that he is not ready to give up. But Aizen Sōsuke, who was standing there, suddenly said, "It's enough." Then he disappeared in place, and when Aizen Sōsuke appeared again, he had already come to the 3rd Espada Libel. The 3 people who fought with Libel were suddenly there, and they didn't know what Aizen Sōsuke was going to do. At this time Aizen Sōsuke walked towards Libel, then looked at him there and said, "It's enough." He drew out the knife in his hand and slashed Libel in the abdomen. Haribel looked at Aizen Sōsuke puzzledly, and then asked, "Why?" Aizen Tomosuke looked at her with a smile and said, "Your strength is too weak, and you are no longer qualified to continue to be my subordinates. You no longer need to make sacrifices for me at this time." Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Haribel was shocked. Although unwilling, Haribel couldn't resist Aizen Sōsuke, closing his eyes and falling downward. Thinking of the past, Haribel slowly closed his eyes. At this time, Aizen Tomosuke did not pay attention to Sputaya Toshiro, who were fighting with Libel. Back to Hirako Shinji, looked at him and said, "Don't you always want to find me revenge? I'll give you a chance, and this time I decided to fight with you." Hirako Shinji grinned there. "Really? That's great, I'm here for this." The 2 confronted there, and behind them, Tusen Konami and Captain Komamura continued to fight there. Pat the village. What's the matter? Are you still hesitating? Now he is merciful. What's the point? Komamura didn't speak there, he felt like he was done. The Tusen Konami in front of me is no longer the Tusen Konami before. There is no need to deal with Tusen Konami anymore, I thought of this. Captain Komamura began to sing. Bankai, Black Rope Scourge King. A huge samurai in armor and a katana appeared behind Paimura. Tusen Konami couldn't help laughing when he saw Peiken started there. Can you finally get serious? But what's the use? Friends of so many years, I can't be more familiar with your Bankai. Speaking of Tusen Konami, he attacked the transformed King of Heavenly Scourge. Every time it was cut on the body of King Scourge Ming, Peiken's body would be harmed just like Pluto. Tusen Konami attacked Pluto while shouting there, "Your body is connected to Pluto after Bankai. Attacking Pluto is to attack yourself. Bankai is really tasteless, isn't it?" Tusen Konami did not show mercy, and attacked Pluto frantically. At this moment, Peiken, who was already covered in wounds, couldn't stand anymore, and fell to his knees. When Tsusenkanami slashed towards Pluto for the last time, he flew behind Pluto, intending to give him a fatal blow. At this time, Komamura, who took the opportunity, waved his left hand, and Pluto hit Tsusenkanami, who was constantly flying in the air, with a punch. Tsusenkanami was beaten into flight. The whole left hand was beaten and turned around, almost flattened. He stood up reluctantly, and then looked at Tsusenkanami. His left hand has been lost, it should be easy to deal with. For flowers. However, I saw Tsusenkanami shaking his left hand there. Suddenly his Tsusenkanami's left hand recovered in an instant. Super regeneration. Only Shu and Arankar have the ability. Tsusenkanami, who recovered his health, looked at the captain of the filming village there and said, "I'll show you some interesting things, I believe you will like it." Speaking, Tsusenkanami grabbed his face with his hand. Seeing Tsusenkanami's action, the village captain saw Tsusenkanami using this trick, his face changed drastically. Point 0. Because he had seen several people in the village captain, he used such gestures to transform himself, just like Hiroko Shinji. Sure enough, after Tsusenkanami made such a gesture, around Captain Komamura's body, a powerful Reiatsu suddenly appeared and wrapped it. After Reiatsu dispersed, a person wearing a mask stood there. Tsusenkanami laughed loudly. "How is it? Captain Komamura, did my trick surprise you?" Seeing Tsusenkanami like this, Captain Komamura suddenly became angry. "Unexpectedly, you did it. What kind of power is there for everyone to want? Don't you want it? Is power really that important? Even if you have a strong power, but what do you want to use it for? If you have lost your heart, what if you have the most powerful strength? What can you do? Let's be noisy there anymore. You, who have never had real power, won't understand how I feel. I don't want to continue talking nonsense with you. It is impossible for a person like you to understand the meaning of having power." Fan. Chapter 379. The Break of Old Friends. Qian Ye meets Captain Shinigami. Advertise here. At this time, Tsusenkanami disappeared, constantly attacking the liberated Pluto, who had taken the captain of the village. Pluto was attacked, and the captain of the village is now seriously injured. I thought that by the attack of Tsusenkanami, the captain of the village would become very angry. But in Captain Komamura's eyes, Tsusenkanami didn't see any resentment in his eyes, on the contrary, there was a deep resentment and worry. There was a touch in Tsusenkanami's heart. Feeling this, Tsusenkanami suddenly became angry, and then looked at the village captain and said, "Why do you guys refuse to give up until now? As I said, I have already chosen another path to the strong. That road is full of blood, don't you understand? What dreams are there still there?" Captain Komamura, who was panting there, looked at Tsusenkanami and said, "You used to be my best friend. Even if you go astray, I will pull you out of that hell." I heard the words of Captain Komamura. Tsusenkanami was slightly startled there. Then he looked at the captain of the village and said, "Don't talk nonsense there, I will kill you now and let you escape from that fantasy." Speaking of Tsusenkanami, he hung his knife of 67-0 on his chest, and then said, "Suzumushi 100 styles, crazy foil cricket." This is Tsusenkanami's tactics, watching the changes in Tsusenkanami. Captain Komamura gritted his teeth in shock, stared in his eyes, and looked at everything in front of him, heartache. Recently, the Tsusenkanami in front of him has become a giant grasshopper with 4 pairs of wings on the back and 2 huge eyes on his head. Tsusenkanami exclaimed excitedly there, "I saw it, I finally saw it, this is what the sky looks like, is this you?" Taking the captain of the village, "I didn't expect to see you for the first time, only to realize that you are really ugly." Hearing Tsusenkanami's words, the village captain said sadly, "I didn't expect your eyes to be really blind from this moment." Tsusenkanami was particularly angry. He had already seen the world, but he was still called blind. Tsusenkanami has been particularly sensitive to this term since before, even if it is true for myself. Tsusenkanami has always hidden his emotions. When others call him blind, although he will be particularly angry, he will always be patient. At this moment, Tsusenkanami looked at the captain of the Pi village angrily and said, "If this is the case, let me, a blind man, send you on the road." Tsusenkanami flashed around and came to Captain Komamura. At this time, the captain of the filming village had become very weak because he had been attacked just now. Captain Komamura can't use much energy anymore, and can't defend Tsusenkanami's attack. I saw Tsusenkanami say, "Success to death." Circle after circle on his chest, Tsusenkanami gathered 10 circles and suddenly released them completely and hit Captain Komamura on the body. The captain of the village was knocked to the ground and couldn't get up again. "Ha ha ha, how about Komamura? This is power. You can't beat me now. And I'm about to die under my power, do you have anything else to say?" He was dying and patted the captain of the village. At this moment, he could not say anything. But at this moment, Tsusenkanami was about to make the final blow to the village captain. A person has appeared on Tsusenkanami's head, and the knife in his hand has completely pierced into Tsusenkanami's skull. The captain of the village took a look at Tsusenkanami, and then said, "Unexpectedly, you woke up at this time." Sasaki said lightly there, "It looks like you are indeed not the former Tsusenkanami captain. Because you can't even dodge an attack like mine." Sasaki continued. Let me give you the last blow, split it, the wind is dead. In this way, Tusen Kanami was pierced in his head and changed back to his original appearance. Tusen Kanami lying down can still see the appearance of the village. Weakly said. Pat the captain of the village, this time I really saw you. Before he could finish speaking, Tusen Kanami's body exploded. I saw the blood falling on my body. Captain Komamura was very angry. Angrily stared at Aizen Sōsuke in the sky. Aizen Tomosuke, you bastard. Captain Komamura roared. The battle here in Karakura town has become intense. At this moment, Qian Ye in Hueco Mundo has already joined the other captains. Qian Ye really didn't expect you to have such a powerful strength. He is already very strong, okay. It's just that you have been reluctant to admit it. Humph, aren't you also his defeated opponent? Ha ha. What are you laughing at? Qian Ye looked at the other captains there and said, how can I return to reality? Hearing Qian Ye's question, the captains looked at Kuretsuchi Mayuri grimly. At this time, Tusen Kanami disappeared, constantly attacking the liberated Pluto who had taken the captain of the village. Pluto was attacked, and the captain of the village is now seriously injured. I thought that by the attack of Tusen Kanami, the captain of the village would become very angry. But from the eyes of the captain of the village, Tusen Kanami did not see any resentment in his eyes, on the contrary, he was deeply dissatisfied and worried. There was a touch in Tusen Kanami's heart. Feeling this, Tusen Kanami suddenly became angry, and then looked at Captain Komamura and said. Why do you guys refuse to give up until now? As I said, I have already chosen another path to the strong. That road is full of blood, don't you understand? What dreams are there still there? Captain Komamura, who was panting there, looked at Tusen Kanami and said, you used to be my best friend. Even if you go astray, I will pull you out of that hell. I heard the words of Captain Komamura. Tusen Kanami was slightly startled there. Then he looked at the captain of the village and said, don't talk nonsense there, I will kill you now and let you escape from that fantasy. Speaking, Tusen Kanami hung his knife on his chest, and then said, Suzumushi 100 Shiki, crazy cricket. This is Tusen Kanami's tactics, watching the changes in Tusen Kanami. Captain Komamura gritted his teeth in shock, stared in his eyes, and looked at everything in front of him, heartache. Recently, the Tusen Kanami in front of him has become a giant grasshopper with 4 pairs of wings on the back and 2 huge eyes on his head. Tusen Kanami exclaimed excitedly there, I saw it, I finally saw it, this is what the sky looks like, is this you? Taking the captain of the village, I didn't expect to see you for the first time, only to realize that you are really ugly. Hearing Tusen Kanami's words, Captain Komamura said with a sad expression, I didn't expect your eyes to be really blind from this moment. Tusen Kanami was particularly angry. He had already seen the world, but he was still called blind. Tusen Kanami has been particularly sensitive to this term since before, even if it is true for myself. Tusen Kanami has always hidden his emotions. When others call him blind, although he will be particularly angry, he will always be patient. At this moment, Tusen Kanami looked angrily at the captain of the Pi village and said, if this is the case, let me, a blind man, send you on the road. Tusen Kanami flashed around and came to Captain Komamura. At this time, the captain of the filming village had become very weak because he had been attacked just now. Captain Komamura can't use much energy anymore, and can't defend Tusen Kanami's attack. I saw Tusen Kanami say, success to death. Circle after circle on his chest, Tusen Kanami gathered 10 circles and suddenly released them completely and hit Captain Komamura on the body. Captain Komamura was knocked to the ground and couldn't get up again. Ha ha ha, how about Komamura? This is power. You can't beat me now. And I'm about to die under my power, do you have anything else to say? Captain Komamura, who was dying, could not say anything at this moment. But at this moment, Tusen Kanami was about to perform the final blow to Captain Komamura. A person has appeared on Tusen Kanami's head, and the knife in his hand has completely pierced into Tusen Kanami's skull. The captain of the village took a look at Tusen Kanami, and then said, unexpectedly, you woke up at this time. Sasaki said lightly there, it looks like you are indeed not the former Tusen Kanami captain. Because you can't even dodge an attack like mine. Sasaki 4.9 continued, let me give you the last blow, split it, the wind is dead. In this way, Tusen Kanami was pierced in his head and changed back to his original appearance. Tusen Kanami lying down can still see the appearance of the village. Weakly said. Taking the captain of the village, I really saw you this time, you. Before he could finish speaking, Tusen Kanami's body exploded. I saw the blood falling on my body. Captain Komamura was very angry. Angrily stared at Aizen Sōsuke in the sky. Aizen Tomosuke, you bastard. The captain of the village slapped angrily. The battle here in Karakura town has become intense. At this moment, Qian Ye in Hueco Mundo has already joined the other captains. Qian Ye really didn't expect you to have such a powerful strength. He is already very strong, okay. It's just that you have been reluctant to admit it. Humph, aren't you also his defeated opponent? Ha ha. What are you laughing at? Qian Ye looked at the other captains there and said, how can I return to reality? Hearing Qian Ye's question, the captains looked at Kuretsuchi Mayuri with grinning eyes. Chapter 380. Aizen's Self-Confidence and Power. Advertise here. Standing there, Kuretsuchi Mayuri looked at Qian Ye and said, I have a way. I have studied the spiritual power changes in the black cavity just now, and I can already control the black cavity. Then let me create miracles. Qian Ye smiled slightly. Although this guy is not reliable, he is a mad scientist. But sometimes Kuretsuchi Mayuri's research is indeed very powerful. At this time, Unohana Retsu came to Qian Ye's side. It looks like you are not injured, and you don't need my treatment. Qian Ye glanced at Unohana Retsu and said, Why? My Reiatsu is almost exhausted, and I just need your supplement. Well then, let me go back with you. Qian Ye was taken aback, looked at the others and said, Aren't you going back? 23. I only heard Kuretsuchi Mayuri say, there seems to be something interesting at the bottom of the fifth tallest tower. I wanted to see it by myself, but they have to follow it. There is no way. At this time Byakuya Kuchiki looked at Qian Ye and said, You have to go there in this world. We need to investigate some unknown things here. Qian Ye nodded and then looked at them and said, If this is the case, then I will leave first. Back to this time in this world, Kuretsuchi Mayuri has already opened up the black tone. Qian Ye looked at them and nodded, then walked into the black cavity. Unohana Retsu and Kurosaki Ichigo behind Qian Ye also followed, restoring spiritual power for him behind his back. Qian Ye looked at Kurosaki Ichigo and said, Why did you come with me? There are many of my friends there, and I want to go over and help them. Qian Ye glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo, and did not continue to say anything. The two ran quickly in the dark. At this moment, due to anger in the air of this world, the captain of the village was about to rush up to fight Aizen Sōsuke desperately. Only seeing the space barrier shattered behind the captain of the Pi village, Qian Ye walked out from inside. Coming behind Aizen Sōsuke, behind Qian Ye are Unohana Retsu and Kurosaki Ichigo. Seeing the arrival of these three people, it turned out to be very angry, and was about to rush to an Aizen Sōsuke desperately to shoot the village team and stopped. Fortunately for Qian Ye's timely arrival, otherwise the captain of Ship Village would be killed by Aizen Sōsuke if he rushed forward. Qian Ye quietly looked at Aizen Sōsuke, and he looked around the scene in front of him. Seeing a mess around, the enemy was only Aizen Sōsuke. And those captains looked scarred. It seems that a fierce battle has taken place. Aizen Tomosuke looked at them and said, Actually, it's not too intense, but since you are here, it should be a little more intense. Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Qian Ye smiled slightly, and then said, You fellow, I went to Hueco Mundo to find you, but you ran into this world. Did you deliberately avoid me? Aizen Sōsuke smiled and said, What are you kidding? I just don't have time to pay attention to you. Yes, Qian Ye was about to pull out his own Naomiki to fight Aizen Sōsuke. But the captains rushed up one after another, and then they all came to Qian Ye. Qian Ye, this guy belongs to us temporarily. Qian Ye was taken aback, then looked at the captains and Hiroko Shinji and his friends. I heard them all saying, Qian Ye, let us fight him first. We want to avenge blood and hatred. Are you sure? But you are not his opponents. Trust us, we can defeat him by joining forces. Qian Ye heard the captain say so, and agreed. Okay, since you guys said that, I'm not happy to do it now. So Qian Ye retreated to the side, and Aizen Hōgyoku watched Qian Ye not ready to make a move at this time. Aizen smiled slightly, and then said, If you don't make a move, each of them will be cut by me. After hearing what Aizen said, Qian Ye didn't speak anymore, just looked at them faintly. At this time, 673 Sanga Toshiro had already rushed up and slashed at Aizen Sōsuke who was standing there. Aizen Tomosuke didn't even hide, and raised the knife in his hand, and blocked Toshiro's hard blow. But instead of waiting for Aizen Tomosuke to continue attacking Toshiro, the band leader Kyo attacked again behind him. The body turned around and escaped the attack from the band leader Kyo, and Hiroko Shinji slashed over again. Several people took turns attacking, but even under the attack of everyone, Aizen Sōsuke was able to cope with it freely. Their knives never hit Aizen Sōsuke's body. On the contrary, these captains were chopped by Aizen Sōsuke from time to time. Qian Ye watched these team captains unite and attack Aizen Sōsuke together. However, he still couldn't beat Aizen Sōsuke, and he didn't even have the chance to meet him. Unexpectedly, Aizen Sōsuke's strength has become so strong, Qian Ye not only sighed in his heart. Chapter 381. The Difference in Strength. The Second Kill of the Broken Bee. Advertise here. Looking at the continuously injured team captains, Qian Ye also sighed in his heart. There is no way, the difference in strength is too great, even a captain-level figure such as Sputaya Toshiro, the band leader of Beijing, cannot hurt Aizen Sōsuke. Even if Shinji and his friends are hollow, they still can't attack Aizen Sōsuke. At this moment, they were continuously cut and wounded and lost their combat effectiveness. The only people who can stand beside Aizen Tomosuke are Toshiro, the band leader, Hiroko Shinji, and Kurosaki Ichigo, who came back with Qian Ye, saw the scene in front of him, and suddenly became angry there. Those are all Kurosaki Ichigo's friends, and seeing them being slashed by Aizen Sōsuke made him anxious. Kurosaki Ichigo also rushed forward and cut twice, but his strength is not as good as Hiroko Shinji and the others. Aizen Sōsuke has no interest even in hacking Kurosaki Ichigo. After a lot of chaos, Aizen Sōsuke still didn't suffer any harm. And those captains who can stand up and fight are very few. Just when Aizen Sōsuke was about to cut Lisa, a person appeared in front of Aizen Sōsuke. This person is the Broken Bee with only one hand left. Broken Bee looked at Aizen Sōsuke and said, "It's time to end your life." Aizen Sōsuke looked at Shattered Bee and said with interest, "The captain of the secret force, Shattered Bee, is so bold that he stands boldly in front of me. Have you given up your previous assassination tactics?" Broken Bee said with a serious expression, "Let you try my two-strike kill." After speaking, the Broken Bee moved forward quickly. I saw dozens of Broken Bees appear in the sky. Aizen Sōsuke looked at the clone of Broken Bee and said, "Clone, it looks like a juggling." Regarding Aizen Sōsuke's mockery of the bee, Broken Bee didn't care, and said solemnly, "If a juggling like this can take your life, it should be a very top juggling, and it can be included in the annals of history." Quote. As he said, he rushed towards Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Sōsuke had already seen the attack of Broken Bee's clone clearly, and was about to draw his sword to resist. But a piece of icicle came out from underneath, and Aizen Sōsuke's hand that pulled the knife was frozen there, making him unable to resist. 2 puffs. Shattered Bee's weapon stabbed Aizen Sōsuke in the same place twice in succession. Aizen Sōsuke stood there still, and the world seemed to be still. The Broken Bee still maintained the posture that it had attacked just now. Successful. The captains next to him asked uncertainly. Another captain said, "It should be a success. The 2 blows of the Broken Bee will kill. As long as 2 consecutive attacks hit the enemy in the same place, the enemy will definitely die." At this time, Broken Bee was also convinced that Aizen Sōsuke would definitely die. But before Broken Bee was completely relieved, Aizen Sōsuke smiled there. Smashed Bee's trick, will it kill with 2 blows? Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Broken Bee's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe everything in front of him. Obviously he had stabbed Aizen Sōsuke's body, and it was twice in a row. Aizen Sōsuke would definitely die, so how could he still be able to speak? At this time, Aizen Sōsuke slowly raised his head to look at Broken Bee and said, "The battle between Shinigami is a battle between spiritual power. The reason why your weapon is said to be a second kill is that after the second time and the first time overlap, the spiritual damage will become extremely powerful, so it can kill the opponent. But even if the spiritual power of your second attack overlaps as far below me, how can it really kill me?" After hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Broken Bee couldn't believe her ears. Shattered Bee has always believed that his weapon is absolutely valid with 2 strikes. But I didn't expect that there is still a limit. Is Aizen Sōsuke above this limit? Even Shattered Bee is now shaken. Aizen Sōsuke's strength is too strong. The ice block on his right hand was smashed vigorously, and Aizen Sōsuke's knife was also pulled out by Aizen Sōsuke. Raising the knife in his hand, looking at the Broken Bee in front of him, he was about to chop it down. Suddenly, a knife pierced Aizen Sōsuke's chest from his back. Aizen Sōsuke looked down at the knife. Aizen Sōsuke then turned around, and the band leader Kyo appeared in the shadow behind him. "You are so careless, Aizen Sōsuke, have you forgotten that there are shadows on the ice?" Hearing what the band leader said, Aizen Sōsuke frowned slightly, but the big sword in his chest was still there. At this moment, the band leader Beijing drew the knife back. Aizen Sōsuke shook there a bit, then raised his head abruptly and looked at the 2 people, Shattered Bee and the band leader Kyo. Just about to swing the long knife in his hand, Aizen Sōsuke suddenly looked at Hiroko Shinji in the distance. Chapter 382. Kyoka Suigetsu Who Knows Nothing. Advertise here. I saw Hiroko Shinji constantly spinning the strange weapon in his hand. At this time Aizen Sōsuke realized that it was a misfortune, because the weapon in Hiroko Shinji's hand can make people in his world have an upside-down illusion of vision. At this moment, in front of Aizen Sōsuke, Toshiro was rushing towards him with his long sword. Suddenly aware of the danger, Aizen Sōsuke was about to dodge but it was too late. Hitsugaya Toshiro's long knife had pierced Aizen Sōsuke's body from behind. After the long knife was pierced into the body, it froze quickly, and Aizen Sōsuke looked very painful there. His left hand slowly grabbed the long knife on his chest, but Aizen Sōsuke could no longer hold on. Under the continuous attack of all the captains, he just died there. Did it succeed? This time it was really successful, right? Yes. Even Hiroko Shinji believed that Aizen 673 Sōsuke was defeated. After so many years, the long-cherished wish of many years is finally fulfilled. Sugaya Toshiro and Shinigami joined forces to kill the terrifyingly powerful Aizen Sōsuke here. A bright smile appeared on Hitsugaya Toshiro's face. The other captains were panting there, including Broken Bee and band leader Jing. Seeing everything in front of them, their hearts were also relieved. At this time, on the ground, the deputy captain Hinamori slowly stood up. Hira in the shooting range beside Hinamori smiled and said, "Hinamori, are your injuries healed? It's great to be able to stand up now." But Hinamori ignored the 2 of them and continued to walk forward, and his steps seemed a little strange. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was standing in the distance, shouted loudly, "You guys, what are you doing in CDEJ?" Hearing Kurosaki Ichigo's hoarse cry, the captain suddenly woke up. Only then did they discover that the person who was stabbed by Toshiro was Hinamori. Hinamori walking down is actually Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Tomosuke brandished his long knife and slashed Kira in the shooting field. At this moment, Hinamori, who was penetrated by Hitsugaya Toshiro's chest, fell into the arms of Tsukishigaya Toshiro. Watching his former good friend die in his arms. And he was stabbed to death by his own long knife. Hitsugaya Toshiro suddenly lost his composure there, and began to cry. Hitsugaya Toshiro shouted angrily, then picked up the long knife and rushed towards Aizen Sōsuke. Although the band leader Kyo tried his best to stop there, he still couldn't control Hitsugaya Shiro. Seeing Aizen Tomosuke's long sword waved, Hitsugaya Toshiro's left arm and leg were chopped off. Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at Aizen Sōsuke angrily, and fell down unwillingly. The band leader Kyo and Hiroko Shinji all fell to the ground while Aizen Sōsuke kept swinging his sword. At this moment, everyone was defeated by Aizen Sōsuke. Hiroko Shinji lay on the ground, watching Aizen Sōsuke weakly and asked, "When did you drive Kyoka Suigetsu?" Aizen Sōsuke smiled there and said, "Why do you think I haven't been driving Kyoka Suigetsu?" Hiroko Shinji was there for a moment, then closed his eyes. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo saw that all the captains and friends had been defeated by Aizen Tomosuke just now. Kurosaki Ichigo stood there at a loss, and the captains were almost at the same level as him. Some are even more powerful than Kurosaki Ichigo, but they are still not Aizen Sōsuke's opponents. Now he was left alone, and looked back at Qian Ye who was standing there. At this moment, Qian Ye was also frowning. The Aizen Sōsuke in front of him is too strong, and it is definitely not an easy task to defeat him. "I'm afraid I have to use housekeeping skills," and Kurosaki Ichigo said at this moment. "Qian Ye, if I lose, I hope you must defeat him, otherwise everyone in Karakura town will suffer." Looking at Kurosaki Ichigo's firm eyes, and still caring about the safety of everyone in Karakura town, Qian Ye nodded. "I will do my best." Then I put on the mask. Kurosaki Ichigo, who was about to rush up, was suddenly blocked by a fire. "Boy, it's not yet time for you to take action." Hearing this voice, Aizen Sōsuke said, "You will only be a tortoise with a shrunken head." The captain was not angry because of Aizen Tomosuke's excessive words. Looking at Aizen Sōsuke, he said, "I didn't expect you to have grown to such a level, but you shouldn't think you can beat me." Aizen Tomosuke said with a smile, "You should know my abilities." The sword stabbed the captain Genryujai. Yuan Lujai stood there without avoiding. The captain took a shot and grabbed Aizen Sōsuke's arm with the knife. "I caught you." Aizen Sōsuke did not panic at the moment. "It seems that you don't understand my ability." Chapter 383. As long as I can defeat you. I am not relying on a knife but me. Advertise here. In my world, all your 5 senses are controlled by me. Are you sure you really caught me? Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, the captain's hand tightened even more. He said fiercely, "Of course I understand Kyoka Suigetsu's abilities, and I know his greatness, so I can't believe everything in front of me. But the spiritual power that pierced my abdomen will definitely not be fake." Aizen Tomosuke didn't speak, and just looked at the captain. The captain held Aizen Sōsuke's arm in one hand, and swiped a knife in the other hand, and a thick pillar of fire rushed out of the ground continuously, enclosing the two of them. Looking at this pillar of fire, Aizen Sōsuke's expression is not only surprised. "It turns out that you have been hiding for so long, regardless of the life and death of the captains, so you are ready to prepare this. As long as you can completely defeat you, sacrifice is inevitable. If you still can't beat you with such a big sacrifice, then you are fortunate to have lost their efforts." Hearing the words of the team leader Genryusai, Aizen Sōsuke smiled and said, "It seems that you are going to betray them." Just when Genryusai was about to release his tricks and wanted to die with Aizen Sōsuke, a figure appeared beside the flame. The captain slashed over, and was directly grasped by the blade by the opponent, and the flame on the blade was immediately extinguished. At this moment, the captain who was caught by the blade was slammed by the opponent forcefully, threw it out of the wall of fire, and fell to the ground. Seeing the flame on his knife go out, the captain of the team was surprised. Aizen Sōsuke in the air stood there calmly. Looking at the man, he said, "The sword is like a fire, the most powerful knife in Soul Society. How can I prevent it? Because of his greatness, I specially prepared something for him." Speaking, Aizen Sōsuke turned his head and looked at Wanda Vance, who had changed form beside him. Specially strengthened Arankar, lost language awareness, and some other basic abilities just to seek an ultimate ability. Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, the head of the team, Genryujai, couldn't help but stunned. He seemed to realize something. Aizen Sōsuke smiled and continued, "This ultimate ability is the seal of a sword." As Aizen Sōsuke's voice just fell, Wanda Vance waved his hand, and the pillars of fire began to go out one by one, and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Seeing Wanda Vance with such ability in front of him, the captain Genryujai couldn't help being surprised. The captain of the team, Genryujai, did not sigh with Shaowen's abilities, but was surprised by Aizen Sōsuke's arrangement. How delicate is this person's mind? From the original deputy captain Shinigami to the current king of Hueco Mundo, every step is carefully calculated. Looking at Arankar in front of him, Genryujai captain rushed towards him. "If you just think that you can defeat me by extinguishing the fire, Does Aizen Sōsuke think I'm a little too simple? Aizen Sōsuke smiled and continued, how come? So it's best for him to deal with you. Saying that Xiaowen disappeared when he flashed away, and when he reappeared, he had already reached the top of the captain. The two long and big fists began to wave at the captain constantly, and there was no way to see a trick. Yuan Lujai only stretched out his arms to resist Xiao Wan's attack, but after Xiao Wan stopped the attack, his two hands had already grabbed the hands of the captain. For flowers. Suddenly dozens of hands stretched out on the shoulders of his captain, and at this moment, the hands of the captain had been broken apart by Xiao Wan's hands. Another random punch hit the captain. Aizen Sōsuke smiled next to him and said, Xiao Wan, treat the elderly with a lighter hand, don't break it up. The captain said coldly, my old man's body is okay, and such a fist just feels like it's beating me on the back. If you can, put more effort. Speaking of both hands, I saw that Wanda Vance's two arms were pulled down by the captain. Xiao Wan yelled and wailed in pain. You are really violent, said the captain Yuan Lujai. Fortunately, he is not a child now, otherwise I would really not be able to kill him. I am able to become the captain of the team, absolutely not because of a knife. The reason why he will become Soul Society's most powerful knife is because he belongs to me. After speaking, the aura of the captain began to continue to rise, but was shocked by the aura of the captain Genryujai, standing there not daring to move. In a flash, the captain Yuan Lujai had already arrived in front of him, with his fists closed to the sides of his waist, and then he slapped forward and hit Xiaowan's abdomen. At this time, Xiao Wan's abdomen was shattered, and his whole body was like a piece of porcelain, falling off piece by piece to the ground. Only his head and half of his upper body were left. Xiaowan, who fell on the ground, had already lost his life. Ha ha ha, he really deserves to be the captain, and he killed him with one move. Fan. Chapter 384. Do you want to die with me? Qian Ye finally shot. Advertise here. Captain Motoyanagi looked at Aizen Sōsuke and wanted to walk towards him. When the captain Genryusai was halfway through, Aizen Sōsuke said, Captain, have you ever thought that you release the flames of those powerful pillars of fire? And the flames on the fire, where did they all go? Hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Genryujai stood there all of a sudden. What did he realize? Looking back, the upper body that had been broken at this moment began to bulge. Without thinking about it, Yuan Lujai rushed towards there quickly. Lan, 67. Ran to Yusuke said with a smile. It's still pretty smart, Mama, you know the situation as soon as you remind. Your powerful flame, if it breaks out in an instant, I don't know what kind of scene it will be here. As Aizen Sōsuke's voice just fell, only a loud bang was heard. A huge explosion occurred at the center of Xiaowan, and the explosion range quickly expanded to the outside. But before it expanded far out, it began to shrink inward and disappear. After all this was over, only a huge pit appeared at the center of Xiaowan. The captain Yuan Lujai, who was kneeling in the pit, could no longer stand at this moment. Panting heavily, the body of the captain Genryujai was already in tatters, and his arms became jet black. The captain Yuan Lujai wanted to stand up, but couldn't do it, lying on the ground and lingering. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke fell down from a height, and then slowly walked to the front of the captain Genryujai. The terrifying Genryujai used his body to control the explosion in an instant. It is a great feat. You saved the captains of the entire Soul Society. The captain Motoyanagi looked at Aizen Sōsuke angrily. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke took another 2 steps forward. Before Aizen Sōsuke could speak, the team leader Lu Yuanzai grabbed Aizen Sōsuke's ankle as soon as his footsteps fell. Then he said, Go to hell with me, Aizen Sōsuke. Cremation with one cut. The firelight rose from the sky like a broad knife 10 meters wide. I thought that the captain Genryusai was already incapable of releasing the attack, and the somewhat careless Aizen Sōsuke was immediately swallowed by the fire. In the midair, a figure jumped out from the flames that resembled a big sword. Aizen Sōsuke looked at the torch behind him a little embarrassed. He said to himself, It's too careless. I didn't expect him to be so courageous, using his body as a weapon to release the flames. If you want to die with me, the team captain's strength really cannot be underestimated. There, Aizen Sōsuke, who was still shocked by what happened just now, suddenly felt a crisis coming from behind him. When it was too late to fight back, a big knife fell from the sky, and the black crescent light slashed towards his body. Although he evaded the blade of the black crescent in a hurry, he was still injured by Captain Lu Yuanzai. He quickly stepped back and watched Kurosaki Ichigo, who was standing there with a mask holding a large knife, looking at himself. At this moment, Qian Ye stood by and did not make a move. This is what he promised to the captain and Kurosaki Ichigo before. Before they were defeated, Qian Ye would never help him. Seeing that the captain Lu Yuanzai was defeated by Aizen Sōsuke, Qian Ye's heart was full of emotion. I have no choice but to make a promise, so Qian Ye can't make a move at this time, and now only Kurosaki Ichigo is left fighting with Aizen Sōsuke. This is also the first time Aizen Yusuke was really injured today, but the wound on his shoulder is about to heal. Seeing the wound on Aizen Yuji's shoulder healed, Qian Ye's eyes narrowed slightly. As Aizen Sōsuke also hollow. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't care about this at the moment, and his anger almost filled his chest. Captain Lu Yuanzai, all the captains, and his good friends, all the masked people were defeated by the man in front of them. Some of them were seriously injured, and some had died. Kurosaki Ichigo was the only one left, and his eyes were full of hatred. Kurosaki Ichigo constantly waved the big knife in his hand, released the crescent moon, and attacked Aizen Sōsuke, but it was not effective at all. Just when Kurosaki Ichigo desperately tried to defeat Aizen Sōsuke, suddenly Aizen Sōsuke was about to take a shot, and a person appeared in front of him. Have you finally made it? Qian Ye looked at Aizen Yuji in front of him and said, Kurosaki Ichigo, you step aside first, and he gave it to me. 4.9 And at this moment Kurosaki Ichigo just wanted to say something. Qian Ye said firmly, you are not his opponent. Fighting him like this will only kill you, and it's meaningless to die like this. Kurosaki Ichigo stood there. The knife in his hand was tightly held by him, but he knew what Qian Ye said was right. He now acts with his will, and it will only make things worse. Qian Ye continued. You go to deal with Ichimaru Jin, Aizen will let me deal with it. At this time, Ichimaru Jin, who was always smiling and narrowed his eyes, looked at Qian Ye and said, if you let him deal with me, he will die miserably. Chapter 385. I am taking revenge for them. Unohana Kazuki Yoruichi appears. Advertise here. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo was already very angry. Hearing Ichimaru Jin's words, he suddenly came to Ichimaru Jin's side and slashed at Ichimaru Jin. But when Kurosaki Ichigo cut to Ichimaru Jin had already moved elsewhere. Looking at Kurosaki Ichigo there, he said, you are a little too anxious. With such a messy knife, it is impossible to hit me. At this moment, Qian Ye saw Kurosaki Ichigo listening to his own words to deal with Ichimaru Jin. Qian Ye turned his head to look at Aizen Yuji in front of him and said, this time you really made you mess around too much. I said long ago that if you let them fight me, they will only be chopped down by me. Then let me avenge them. I don't feel any hatred of you for me. You don't need hatred to defeat you, you just need justice. Aizen Sōsuke was taken aback, then laughed. Aizen Sōsuke, you do whatever you can for your own ends. Let me defeat you. Bankai, Julianfang, do you think this alone can defeat me? Isn't it a bit too small to look down on me? Try it. Speaking of Qian Ye, he rushed over. When he just rushed over, suddenly a red light passed through Aizen Sōsuke's body, and Aizen Sōsuke was stunned. Then he turned his head to look at the man standing on a high place. Unexpectedly you are here too. Yes, although it's a little late, it should be too late. Whether you come early or late, the result will be the same. You will be defeated by me, and I will break through my limits and reach another level. Aizen Sōsuke looks a little crazy now, slightly different from his usual calm and relaxed appearance. Perhaps after defeating all the captains of Soul Society, including the captain Ryu Wanzai, Aizen Sōsuke's confidence was a little inflated. At this moment Qian Ye paused because of Yuan Kazuki's attack just now. When he was about to continue his attack, Aizen Sōsuke had disappeared in place. When he reappeared, Aizen Sōsuke's long sword had already pierced the body of Yamamoto Kazuki standing high. Qian Ye and Kurosaki Ichigo were taken aback. They didn't expect that Yuan Kazuki would be stabbed to death by Aizen Sōsuke as soon as he appeared. But just when Aizen Sōsuke thought it would be successful, Yamamoto Kazuki suddenly exploded in front of him. It turned out that it was a stand-in for Yuan Kazuki, and it was also the research of Yuan Kazuki. At this moment, Yhwach Kazuki appeared behind Aizen Sōsuke, and tried to slash at him, but Aizen Sōsuke blocked him, and the two hit together. However, Yamamoto Kazuki was not yet Aizen Sōsuke's opponent. Aizen was slashed out by Aizen Sōsuke, and he was about to continue his attack. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him, and Aizen Sōsuke felt a punch in his abdomen and flew down. At this moment, Yoruichi, who hit him, continued to attack, and Aizen Sōsuke, who hit Yoruichi deep into the ground, seemed to be quiet. At this time, Yoruichi thought that his attack was successful, and was a little proud of it. I only heard Yamamoto Kazuki shouting loudly next to him, get out of there, Yoruichi. Hearing Yuan Kazuki's call, Yoruichi did not dare to stay there and shunko left, but it was still a little late. The weapon on his left foot was shattered by Reiatsu and retreated to Yamamoto Kazuki's side. Yhwach Kazuki asked, Yoruichi, are you okay with your feet? Yoruichi Kaido. No problem, it's just that the weapon on the foot was knocked out, but I have 3 more. Indeed, in Yoruichi's limbs, except for the one that was knocked out just now, the remaining 3 are still wrapped in a full set of weapons. Aizen Sōsuke slowly crawled out of the ruins, then looked at Yhwach Kazuki and Yoruichi in front of him, and said, is this your combined attack? The combined attack power of 2 people is nothing more than that. Yoruichi and Yamamoto Kazuki's eyes were tightly locked at Aizen Sōsuke, and Qian Ye was standing beside him at the moment. Aizen Sōsuke turned to Qian Ye, looked at him and said, how do you want to join forces with them to deal with me? 677 Qian Ye said with a smile. As long as they can beat you now, I don't think they would mind joining hands with me. Hearing Qian Ye's words, Aizen Sōsuke laughed. Unexpectedly, with your ability, it is ridiculous that you have to join hands with others to deal with me. Ignoring Aizen Sōsuke's ridicule, Qian Ye rushed forward again and fought with Aizen Sōsuke. The two slashed at each other at a very fast speed, and Ermoto Kazuki and Yoruichi quickly joined the battle group nearby. Aizen Sōsuke fought with the three of them, and still did not lose the wind. Qian Ye secretly sighed that the strength of Aizen Sōsuke is indeed strong. At this time, after Yoruichi and Qian Ye were forced to retreat by Aizen Sōsuke, Urawa Kazuki begins to sing Kido. The chant is not the ordinary Kido, but the over 90 Kido, which is very powerful. I saw fireballs appearing behind Puyuan Kazuki. Chapter 386. The Power of Hōgyoku. 3-1. Advertise here. Aizen Sōsuke just wanted to make a move, but Yoruichi swept his leg and blocked it there. Then, when Aizen Tomosuke swung his knife at Yoruichi, Yoruichi dodged. Yoruichi's instant opening, unlimited speed increase. Aizen Sōsuke slashed through the air, and at this time the fireball also came in front of him. Only a dozen fireballs were seen, which exploded directly on Aizen Sōsuke's body. A flash of red light flashed. Qian Ye and the three of them stood aside, observing the situation in front of them. After the red light passed, Aizen Sōsuke's body caught fire, and the flames burned Aizen Sōsuke's clothes to tears. At this time, Aizen Sōsuke seemed to be unable to hold on. But Qian Ye knew that Aizen Sōsuke would not be defeated so easily. Yamamoto Kazuki, Yoruichi, be careful, he hasn't been defeated yet. This guy we know is so powerful, how could it be defeated by this mere 90 Kido? As they said, Aizen Sōsuke started to stand up slowly, and then laughed loudly there. Aizen Sōsuke's body shape began to change, and Qian Ye saw Aizen Sōsuke's chest at this time. Qian Ye was not only shocked, he didn't expect Aizen Sōsuke to have Hōgyoku inlaid on his chest. As for the Puyuan Kazuki and Yoruichi, they also discovered this, and their expressions began to become serious. Aizen Sōsuke, who was already very difficult to deal with, is now even more difficult to deal with. Qian Ye looked at Puyuan and Kazuki next to him and said, "Did you see?" Puyuan Kazuki nodded and said, "I saw it, I didn't expect it, he actually did this step." Hearing what the two of them said, Aizen Sōsuke laughed loudly. "You see, now Hōgyoku is completely mine. He has slowly begun to accept my control and release his power. You are no longer my opponents." Hearing what Aizen Tomosuke said, Qian Ye, Urawa Kazuki, Yoruichi, and Kurosaki Ichigo who was fighting with the snake over there. They all looked at Aizen Sōsuke, watching his changes, and now it was like a chrysalis, the whole body was wrapped in white cloth. Even Aizen Sōsuke's face is wrapped in a white cloth, which looks more like a mummy. But the strength was very powerful. No matter which direction Qian Ye, Yoruichi, and Puyuan Kazuki attacked him, they all resisted. Feeling the strength of Aizen Sōsuke, Qian Ye narrowed his eyes and looked at him. At this time, Ermoto Kazuki and Yoruichi were cooperating and continued to attack Aizen Sōsuke. Yoruichi's right foot weapon and left hand weapon have all shattered. And at this moment, Yamamoto Kazuki was also panting, and the continuous attacks did not cause much trouble to Aizen Sōsuke. On the contrary, there were a few more wounds on their bodies, and it seemed that they were not bad enough. At this moment, Qian Ye looked at Aizen Sōsuke in front of him, feeling his changes and the improvement of strength. Qian Ye knew that he had to face it seriously, otherwise it would not be Aizen Sōsuke's opponent at all. Without a moment's pause, Yamamoto Kazuki and Yoruichi continued to attack Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Sōsuke seemed to be not serious about his attack on the two of them. Their attacks didn't hurt him at all, and now they have used all their skills. At this moment, Qian Ye cuts a few times with Aizen Sōsuke from time to time. Aizen Sōsuke only cares about Qian Ye now. Because in Aizen Sōsuke's view, only Qian Ye's Reiatsu is enough to be called an opponent by him. Aizen Sōsuke looked at Qian Ye with a smile and said, "You can barely be my opponent now." Qian Ye didn't speak, but looked at Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Sōsuke's expression gradually became cold. Looking at Qian Ye's unanswered words, he looked at Qian Ye with sharp eyes at this time, and then said, "There is no time to deal with you here anymore. I have already thought about it. After defeating you, I will go directly to Karakura town of Soul Society, and then make Wang Jian there. Stop dreaming there, I can't let you do such a thing at all. If Qian Ye first stopped me, you might be able to stop me, but now your strength can't stop me, Wang Jiao Jiao." Qian Ye was not talking, but waved the little wine in his hand and rushed towards Aizen Sōsuke. Regarding Aizen Sōsuke, Qian Ye cannot have any reservations. Qian Ye also opened the instant opening, the speed increased several times. "I really didn't expect you to turn on instantly, but even if you could turn on instantly, you can't beat me just by this." Qian Ye was silent at this moment, just wanting to speak with his own attack. Yamamoto Kazuki and Yoruichi, who were waiting for the opportunity next to them, were there waiting for a chance, and they attacked Aizen Sōsuke. At this time, Ichimaru Jin, who was fighting with Kurosaki Ichigo, looked at Aizen Sōsuke from time to time. Chapter 387. It's over. Make Karakura town the king. Advertise here. Ichimaru Jin seems to be a little absent from the fight with Kurosaki Ichigo. I just saw Hōgyoku and Ichimaru Jin's expressions change slightly, but no one noticed it. I said that when you guy was fighting with me, he dared to be absent-minded. Believe it or not, I slashed you. Ha ha. Seeing Ichimaru Jin's attitude, Kurosaki Ichigo became furious. Crescent Moon Sky Chong. Seeing Kurosaki Ichigo unleashing a trick, he finally started to face him. I said you are really ignorant. Isn't it okay to just watch their wonderful fights by the side? You have to fight me to death in life. Stop talking nonsense. I defeated you so I can deal with Aizen Sōsuke. Ichimaru Jin's eyes lit up and he laughed loudly. With your current strength and indecisive mentality, how can you be able to beat Aizen Sōsuke, who already owns Hōgyoku? At this time, Ichimaru Jin's expression began to become serious. Looking at Kurosaki 677, Ichigo said, if you don't have the consciousness of death, you can't do such a thing at all. Kurosaki Ichigo was stunned when he heard Ichimaru Jin's words. He didn't understand why Ichimaru Jin told him this. This made Kurosaki Ichigo's attack a little hesitant. Break and shoot, Kamishini no Yari. I saw Ichimaru Jin's knife grow quickly, and it pierced Kurosaki Ichigo's chest. In an instant, Kurosaki Ichigo completed Bankai and blocked Ichimaru Jin's attack with his own knife. You guy, it's really mean to confuse me with words I don't understand, and then attack. Ha ha ha. Don't say that I say so nice. How am I someone who would use that method? If this is really the case, it can only show that you are too stupid. Hearing Ichimaru Jin's ridicule, Kurosaki Ichigo became even more angry. Kurosaki Ichigo after Bankai became faster and became entangled with Ichimaru Jin. At this time, the battle between Aizen Sōsuke and Qian Ye also entered a fever pitch. Just now, Yamamoto Kazuki and Yoruichi, who wanted to sneak attack on Aizen Sōsuke, were injured by Aizen Sōsuke with 2 stabs and fell to the ground. They also lost their combat effectiveness. Qian Ye is constantly dealing with Aizen Sōsuke. Relying on the phantom of the 7-colored bird on his body, he resisted Aizen Sōsuke's attack. Aizen Sōsuke slashed at Qian Ye's chest again, but was still blocked by the phantom. Qian Ye took a step back, and then looked at Aizen Sōsuke coldly. Qian Ye, your 7-color bird's defense is really interesting. I have always been interested in this. It can defend against attacks that are several times higher than that of Reiatsu itself. This kind of protection is absolutely not an exaggeration. Qian Ye looked at Aizen Sōsuke and said, compared with how you hit it, it will regenerate a body. The ability of my soul slasher is really normal. Stop talking, since you and me are the only ones left, then go all out. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was fighting with Ichimaru Jin, saw that Arama Kazuki and Yoruichi had fallen under the sword of Aizen Sōsuke, CDEJ, and his heart was shaken. So if you line up in 2, looking at such a powerful Aizen Sōsuke, he starts to doubt that he can beat him. Qian Ye, you must defeat him, absolutely can't let him go to Unohana Retsu, otherwise. You are distracted like this, not so good for the enemy fighting you. Shoot, Shinso. Ichimaru Jin's knife suddenly penetrated Kurosaki Ichigo's right chest, and Kurosaki Ichigo spit out a mouthful of blood and lay on the ground. At this moment, Qian Ye, who was playing against Aizen Sōsuke, saw that Kurosaki Ichigo was seriously injured. The move was a little messy. Aizen Sōsuke caught the flaw, and then slashed it in the chest. Aizen Sōsuke used all his strength with this knife, and the phantom on Qian Ye's body disappeared all of a sudden. Aizen Sōsuke's knife pierced Qian Ye's chest, and Qian Ye's chest suddenly spurted with blood. Back and withdraw, watching the little partner defending him, attacking him again. Aizen Sōsuke did not pursue him as Qian Ye thought. Aizen Sōsuke stood there looking at Qian Ye and Kurosaki Ichigo. It doesn't make any sense to kill you now. You are no longer my opponents. It can't stop me from turning Karakura town into Wangjian. I must go to the Lingwang Palace. Kurosaki Ichigo stood there, and the hard blood was still flowing outside, blocking most of the attacks. Although Aizen's chest was slashed by Aizen Tomosuke, the wound was not deep. But now, just like Aizen Sōsuke said, it is very difficult to stop Aizen Sōsuke, who is growing in strength, with his current injury. What's more, Kurosaki Ichigo is already seriously injured. If he is left alone, I am afraid I will be killed by Ichimaru Jin. Ichimaru Jin was still attacking at this time, and Kurosaki Ichigo was wounded and fell to the ground where he was bleeding. Okay, Ichimaru Jin, there is no need to put him to death. Let's hurry up and go to Soul Society. Chapter 388. Kurosaki Ichigo's helplessness. Aizen heads to Karakura town. Advertise here. Ichimaru Jin heard Aizen Sōsuke's words, and slowly put away his sword. Then he stood there looking at Kurosaki Ichigo and said, stay here with your strength. You can't save Karakura town at all, you can't even protect yourself. How can you be able to protect others? Kurosaki Ichigo held his knife tightly. He wanted Hollow. But Kurosaki Ichigo really has doubts about himself. Even after Hollow, can he defeat Aizen Sōsuke? At this moment, Qian Ye also has his own ideas. If he can't come up with the peak state to confront Aizen Sōsuke, I'm afraid he won't be his opponent. If you can't beat Aizen Sōsuke this time, I'm afraid no one can stop him anymore. Ichimaru Jin walked slowly to Aizen Sōsuke, then looked at Aizen Sōsuke and said, Captain, shall we go now? Aizen Sōsuke nodded, then looked at Ichimaru Jin and said, let's open it. Ichimaru Jin pointed forward at this time, then moved to the right to rotate, and a large circle appeared in front of it. There are 2 doors above the big circle. Aizen Sōsuke looked back. Qian Ye, who was standing there, did not speak, and walked straight inside. When they disappeared before their eyes, Qian Ye sat down slowly. And Unohana Retsu, who had been in the distance at this moment, flew towards Qian Ye. As a doctor, she must not be too close to the battlefield. Otherwise, once Qian Ye is defeated, who can treat the wounded? This is his first criterion. In front of powerful people, he must stay away. Came to Qian Ye's side, healed his chest injuries and restored Qian Ye's spiritual power. After a period of treatment, Qian Ye's chest wound completely recovered. And Unohana Retsu turned around to treat Kurosaki Ichigo's wounds. Qian Ye looked back at Kurosaki Ichigo and said, Kurosaki Ichigo, believe me, I will protect Karakura Town, and it will be good, and I will protect the people in Karakura Town. Your injury is serious, and time is running out and you cannot wait here until your injury recovers. I am going to stop Aizen Sōsuke from destroying Karakura Town. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo reluctantly stood up, but couldn't do it at all. Although Ichimaru Jin didn't stab him with the fatal injury of Kurosaki Ichigo, it is impossible to fully recover in a short time. Despite Unohana Retsu's treatment, the recovery is quick. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Qian Ye and said, please. Qian Ye nodded, opened the door of the broken boundary, and walked in. When the door of the deadlock was closed, Unohana Retsu shouted there, we must defeat him and come back safely. Qian Ye didn't get a response, because the boundary gate had already been closed at that time. Looking back, he looked firmly at Kurosaki Ichigo and said, Kurosaki Ichigo, can you still move now? Kurosaki Ichigo nodded, gritted his teeth and barely stood up. After Unohana Retsu's treatment, Kurosaki Ichigo's body is already able to move. Well, if you can move, then come with me to save others. Kurosaki Ichigo glanced at the place where Qian Ye just disappeared, then turned his head and nodded and said, okay. At this time, Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin were walking in the corridor formed by the boundary. For flowers. Suddenly at this moment, he rushed over from behind. If it is placed in the front, Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin will rush forward quickly, avoiding the chasing of Jutsu. Because if the strength is not the same as that of Jutsu, you will be bombarded in the corner. You know that the time in the lane is 2000 hours, and the outside is only 1 hour. If you accidentally get stuck in the wrong direction of the flow of time and go 100 years or decades later, when you step out of the fault, you may become a pile of bones. Even the powerful Ichimaru Jin's complexion changed slightly when watching Jutsu, reminding Aizen Sōsuke to leave here quickly. Because Aizen Sōsuke knew that he couldn't catch up with them at their speed. But this time when Ichimaru Jin reminded Aizen Sōsuke, he was unusually uncharacteristic. I saw Aizen Sōsuke facing the direction that Jutsu rushed forward and slowly walked forward. And Ichimaru Jin's face changed drastically at this time, and he understood what Aizen Sōsuke meant. It seems that Aizen Sōsuke wants to defeat Jutsu. Ichimaru Jin thinks that is impossible, but the facts overthrow his thoughts. Jutsu is vulnerable in front of Aizen Sōsuke. Was completely killed in the boundary. Looking at the fallen Jutsu, Aizen Sōsuke turned around, smiled and looked at Ichimaru Jin and said, when you are strong enough, there are no rules in front of you. Nothing works anymore. Those so-called rules are only for those people whose lives are in danger if they don't follow the rules. Said Aizen Sōsuke did not speak anymore, and continued to move forward, and at this time Aizen Sōsuke's figure began to change again. Where? Chapter 389. Aizen Fusion Hōgyoku. Matsumoto Rangaku catches up with Ichimaru Jin. Advertise here. 4 things like wings grew behind Aizen Sōsuke. And there was a crack on his face and forehead. The Hōgyoku on his chest has been completely integrated with him. Ichimaru Jin took a look at Aizen Sōsuke next to him. At this time Aizen Sōsuke asked, Ichimaru Jin, how do you feel when you see me become so strong? Ichimaru Jin was there and said with a smile, you become strong, of course, it is what I want to see. It has always been my dream to be able to go to the Spirit Palace. Aizen Sōsuke nodded, 680 inches and said, Lingwang Palace. It is indeed a good dream, but I don't seem to have mentioned anything about Lingwang Palace to you. Ichimaru Jin smiled and said, did you forget it? You mentioned it just now. Aizen Sōsuke glanced at Ichimaru Jin, then smiled slightly and said, it seems that I remembered it wrong. What I played just now is really messy. Those scenes keep flying around you, making me say something. I forgot. Ichimaru Jin glanced at Aizen Sōsuke, but did not continue to speak. At this time, they had already come to Soul Society and walked out of the broken boundary gate. Ichimaru Jin looked at Aizen Sōsuke and frowned slightly and said, it seems that this is not the place where Karakura Town of Soul Society is located. It was there when I was young. After looking at it, he said, this is Karakura Town, but it seems to be on the edge. Aizen Sōsuke glanced at the novel, and then said, you mean we need to go a little longer? You won't blame me for this, do you? Aizen Sōsuke smiled and shook his head and said, of course not. It is not bad to be able to enjoy his scenery before destroying him. After all, I will never see this place again. Said Aizen Sōsuke and took the lead and walked forward. At this moment, Qian Ye had already walked to the place where Jutsu was. Seeing Jutsu falling on the ground, Qian Ye frowned. It seemed that this was what Aizen Sōsuke did. After thinking about it there, Qian Ye suddenly thought of a very important thing. At this fault level, Qian Ye can just exercise the move that he just learned. Since the time here, 2000 hours is 1 hour of outside time. Then Qian Ye trained for 2000 hours here, completely mastering the trick he learned in Hueco Mundo. In this case, you might be more confident against Aizen Sōsuke. So Qian Ye didn't rush to Karakura town anymore but started his own practice in the fault zone. At this time, Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin have already arrived on the streets of Karakura town. The passers-by on the street seemed to be asleep lying there. But at this time, I saw only 2 girls who looked like students, and slowly woke up. Because when he woke up before, he looked at people around him who were in a coma. Feeling panicked, I saw Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin, and ran towards them like I saw a savior. When he was about to ask what was happening around him, suddenly his body turned into an opportunity, and the ashes disappeared. No sound even came out, and Ichimaru Jin and Aizen Sōsuke who continued to move forward did not do anything. Aizen Sōsuke said with a smile, "My current spiritual power, these ordinary people can't bear it at all, and can only be reduced to ashes near me." The 2 of them continued to walk forward just like that. At this time, the 2 girls also saw Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin. They frowned and didn't know who these 2 people in different costumes were. The people who fainted around made them more alert. When I just wanted to turn my head and ran, I suddenly felt the pressure around me. Suddenly it became particularly huge. The 2 fell on their knees, unable to move. Aizen Sōsuke was very surprised at this time, because he had already walked near the 2 girls, but they were not turned to ashes. After stopping and observing the 2 people in front of him, Aizen Sōsuke saw that they were just about to take a shot. At this time, one person jumped from above. Looking at this person, Ichimaru Jin was taken aback. It was Matsumoto Rangaku who was injured by the monster and shattered his internal organs. In fact, Matsumoto Rangaku's injury did not heal, but after hearing that Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin came here, they walked through the broken gate with their injuries. It can be regarded as catching up. Seeing that Shinigami, who was so strong and injured at 4.9, dared to chase here and stop him. Aizen Sōsuke felt a little surprised. Aizen Sōsuke said indifferently, "You said that you have caught up. Is it possible that you are going to stop us here and save the 2 little girls?" Matsumoto Rangaku, who just wanted to continue to say something, felt that his eyes flickered, and Ichimaru Jin took Aizen Sōsuke far away. Seeing Ichimaru Jin like this, Aizen Sōsuke laughed. Ichimaru Jin knows that, and Matsumoto Rangaku is Aizen Sōsuke's lover. It seems that I still can't let it go. Chapter 390. Aizen loses Hōgyoku. Ichimaru Jin succeeds. Advertise here. Due to the intervention of Matsumoto Rangaku just now, the 2 little girls have escaped. But Aizen Sōsuke didn't intend to let them go. It can be said that Aizen Sōsuke did not intend to let everyone hear. Several flashes have come behind the 2 little girls again. At this time, Ichimaru Jin appeared in front of Aizen Sōsuke. "What's wrong? What about Shinigami? I have killed her." Qian Ye felt it carefully, and there was indeed no Reiatsu of Shinigami. "Hehe, I thought you would still have feelings for him. The feelings have disappeared when I was young. You know my character." At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke looked at the 2 girls who were running forward, and was about to stretch out a knife to chase. Ichimaru Jin jumped in front of Aizen Sōsuke, turned his back to 23, and said, "They will leave it to me." He said that he held Aizen Sōsuke's blade with one hand. Aizen Sōsuke was taken aback for a while, just about to speak. Suddenly a burst of knife light sprang from Ichimaru Jin's armpit and directly penetrated his chest. Aizen Sōsuke stared at Ichimaru Jin and said, "Ichimaru Jin, you." At this time, Ichimaru Jin turned around and looked at him. Aizen Sōsuke said, "If you want to disarm Kyoka Suigetsu, you must touch your blade before you activate the complete hypnosis. It took me more than 10 years for this information to come out of your mouth." Aizen Sōsuke was shocked at this time, and couldn't believe what Ichimaru Jin said. Aizen Sōsuke's expression began to slowly turn cold. Then he looked at Ichimaru Jin and said, "Why is this? Aren't you going to the spirit palace with me? What, have you changed your mind now?" Ichimaru Jin said, "You once took away a treasure from my beloved. Many years ago, I wanted to take it back, but your strength is too strong for me to do such a thing. Quote. I can only hide by your side, looking for opportunities at any time. Those Shinigami captains, every day they shouted to kill you, yelled and yelled against you, and they were all killed by you. They are so stupid. They want to defeat you just by shouting and yelling for a while, and they want to defeat you with a little knowledge of you. It is simply impossible. Ha 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 ha. Ichimaru Jin, do you think you have been hiding by my side for many years, and you can kill me if you know a little about me? If you think you can kill me just like this, then you really have a fight with me in vain. Of course I know I can't kill you this way. But I can take back my things." Speaking, Ichimaru Jin came to Aizen Sōsuke in a flash. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke was seriously injured and unable to move. Shoot, Shinso. Ichimaru Jin's sword blasted Aizen Sōsuke's chest, and Hōgyoku, who was already hidden in his body, was revealed again. Without thinking about it, Ichimaru Jin went up and reached out and grabbed Hōgyoku. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke waved his hand to stop Ichimaru Jin, but it was too late. Ichimaru Jin ducked into the distance. Although his wrist was scratched, he watched Beng Wangyu in his hand and disappeared in a flash. Aizen Sōsuke, who had lost Hōgyoku, as if losing energy there, his body began to slowly recede. Aizen Sōsuke could no longer control his body, and felt the power disappear a little bit. His heart was full of fear, and he didn't expect that he had been in business for so long, but he was defeated by Ichimaru Jin. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke's heart was frightened and angry, and various emotions were mixed together. Ichimaru Jin had already dodged a few times and hid in an alley, looked at Hōgyoku in his hand, and remembered the past there. It was when Ichimaru Jin was young. He met a girl, and that girl was Matsumoto Rangaku. The two had a passion for each other and fell in love with each other. There was a fragment of Hōgyoku on Matsumoto Rangaku's body. As a result, when Ichimaru Jin was not by his side, some people snatched the fragment of Hōgyoku from Matsumoto Rangaku and knocked her out. Ichimaru Jin followed them all the way and found that they were 680s under Aizen Sōsuke. After discovering this, Ichimaru Jin secretly made a decision. Ichimaru Jin wants to hide by Aizen Sōsuke's side, and then take back Matsumoto Rangaku's things. For so many years, Ichimaru Jin has been looking for opportunities, until today he finally made a move and succeeded in one fell swoop. Just when Ichimaru Jin thought he had succeeded, he suddenly heard Aizen Sōsuke's howling frantically. Ichimaru Jin's betrayal. Ichimaru Jin was shocked. He didn't expect Aizen Sōsuke to die. Without Hōgyoku's power, Aizen Sōsuke should be unable to move. But the current Aizen Sōsuke was there, half upwarding his body and howling frantically. And as Aizen Sōsuke's howling, his body began to change. Like a worm breaking into a cocoon and transforming into a butterfly, his wings began to have color, but only black and white. And his body began to slowly recover, and his eyes became different pupils. Chapter 391. Ichimaru Jin was counter-killed. Qian Ye saved the field. Advertise here. Aizen Sōsuke stood up slowly, feeling that the original Hōgyoku position on his chest began to gather slowly, and a new Hōgyoku appeared there. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke came to Ichimaru Jin in a flash, just looking at Ichimaru Jin in front of him. Aizen Sōsuke looked at him and said, Ichimaru Jin, because I took Hōgyoku, am I going to die? Unexpectedly, Hōgyoku has already recognized me and recognized my existence. Even if he left my body, he now belongs to me only. In fact, I knew your purpose from the beginning. It's just that I want to know how you killed me. It seems that your deliberate plan has failed. Ichimaru Jin just wanted to escape, but Aizen Sōsuke slashed. Ichimaru Jin's chest was split, and the Hōgyoku in his hand was also taken back by Aizen Sōsuke, and then merged into his chest. Aizen Sōsuke, who felt that the lost power had returned, was very happy there. Not only that, not only has the original strength returned, but it is also rising rapidly. Ichimaru Jin, who was seriously injured, couldn't escape at all, so he looked at Aizen Sōsuke like that. Ichimaru Jin didn't think that he had taken away Hōgyoku from Aizen Sōsuke, but Aizen Sōsuke was not affected at all, instead he became stronger than before. Ichimaru Jin, don't you know? In fact, every time Hōgyoku merges and evolves with me, it takes an opportunity. 1. This time evolution requires fear. I should thank you. You made me feel fear, so I got the opportunity to evolve. This is something I didn't know before. I thought it would take a long time for me to find the opportunity to evolve. I really deserve to be my capable man, and I will help me before I die. Before Ichimaru Jin said anything, Aizen Sōsuke's long knife pierced Ichimaru Jin's chest. Ichimaru Jin's head slowly lowered, and Ichimaru Jin's body flew out with a flick of it. At this time, a person rushed out to catch Ichimaru Jin, and put it on the ground. She was there watching Ichimaru Jin's tears. Why? Why do you want to do this? If you don't have that thing, you won't have it. Why was so much time wasted for him? There seems to be a lot of reasons to ask. But Matsumoto Rangaku is already choked with sobs at the moment. Seeing Ichimaru Jin who was dying in front of him was heartbroken. When he knew that Ichimaru Jin did not kill her, when she knew that Ichimaru Jin had attacked Aizen Sōsuke, Matsumoto Rangaku had already understood everything. I heard Ichimaru Jin's words just now, and Matsumoto Rangaku's heart was extremely painful. I didn't expect Ichimaru Jin to do so many things for him, but Matsumoto Rangaku never knew. When everyone was scolding Ichimaru Jin as a traitor, my heart was shaken. Although I love Ichimaru Jin very much in my heart, I even gave him the name of betrayal. My heart is full of guilt, reluctance and love. Matsumoto Rangaku looked at Ichimaru Jin with his eyes closed and blood flowing in his mouth. He didn't know what to say. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke laughed. It's a rare scene, it looks very moving. But for such a scene, I really don't like it very much. Since I am so reluctant, I will go with him, wouldn't it be better? Speaking, Aizen Sōsuke brandished his sword and slashed at Matsumoto. Just when Aizen Sōsuke's knife was about to slash Matsumoto's body, a figure reappeared, and the long knife in his hand was stopped. Aizen Sōsuke suddenly was taken aback, he couldn't think of anyone else who could stop him at this moment. When he saw the appearance of the person in front of him clearly, Qian Ye burst out laughing. Standing in front of Aizen Sōsuke was Qian Ye who had practiced for 2,000 hours in the fault zone. At this time, his strength had already taken a qualitative leap. Against Aizen Sōsuke, Qian Ye has absolute confidence. Unexpectedly, you chased here so quickly. Qian Ye looked at Aizen Sōsuke blankly and said, I didn't expect you to have turned into such an ugly look. Hearing Qian Ye's words, Aizen Sōsuke said, I don't dare to flatter your aesthetics. You don't know how to appreciate such a beautiful look. But it doesn't matter, I don't need your approval of Wang Qian. He walked back in a flash. Qian Ye glanced at Ichimaru Jin lying on the ground and Matsumoto Rangaku beside him. Those who woke up nearby frowned slightly. Then turned his head to look at Aizen Sōsuke. It's not convenient here. Let's call another place. Hearing Qian Ye's words, Aizen Sōsuke laughed. There is no inconvenience, in fact, they are all the same, and they will die the same if they change places. Of course you too. Before Aizen Sōsuke continued to speak, Qian Ye had already arrived in front of him, and flew out with one hand holding Aizen Sōsuke's face. Chapter 392, Qian Ye's Strength Beyond the Limit. Advertise here. In this way, I came to a valley, surrounded by empty mountains. This kind of action surprised Aizen Sōsuke, he couldn't resist Qian Ye's actions now. Moreover, Qian Ye's speed was too fast just now, so that Aizen Sōsuke didn't know how he came here. Looking at Qian Ye with a little surprise. What do you mean by looking at me so surprised? Are you worried or afraid? Didn't you say that fear is the opportunity for you to evolve? Is it going to evolve now? Aizen Sōsuke seemed to feel that Qian Ye was a little different, but he couldn't feel anything in Qian Ye's body now. Aizen Sōsuke suddenly thought of something, and was shocked there. Unexpectedly you have also evolved. You can't think of it, there are more. I thought everything was under your 680's control. Now I suddenly discovered something that I can't control, and I feel particularly helpless, right? Qian Ye said lightly. Aizen Sōsuke seemed to have guessed his mind thoroughly by Qian Ye, and looked at Qian Ye with a twist on his face. But you think you can defeat me with such power? Aizen Sōsuke roared, already losing his calmness as a human being. Just like Qian Ye said, Aizen Sōsuke can no longer control the situation in front of him. But after some roaring, the feeling of almost dying just now made Aizen Sōsuke's depressed emotions, and now he is released. Qian Ye, I have now surpassed the boundary between Shinigami and virtual. Become the first transcendent in this world, and I have evolved 3 times, the strength is so powerful that you can't imagine it. Although, CDEJ, you have also broken through this barrier and become a transcendent. But you just stepped into this state, but I have evolved 3 times in a row. Your level is not as high as mine, and you have no chance of winning in front of me. Quote. Qian Ye just looked at Aizen Sōsuke and didn't speak, letting Aizen Sōsuke talk to himself. Seeing Qian Ye ignoring him like this, Aizen Sōsuke became annoyed at this time, and then slashed towards Qian Ye with a flash. But Qian Ye lifted his knife lightly. It didn't seem that the action was fast, but he perfectly resisted Aizen Sōsuke's attack. Aizen Sōsuke was taken aback. He couldn't believe it and said loudly, It's impossible, it's absolutely impossible, why can you do such a thing? You just evolved. Qian Ye still didn't say a word, just looking at him like that, which made Aizen Sōsuke even more excited. In fact, what surprised and disturbed him most was Qian Ye's strength, which he couldn't control and feel. In the past, all the captains and even Reiatsu, Aizen Sōsuke, the captain, were able to feel it. Whether it is stronger or weaker than him, Aizen Sōsuke can clearly feel the opponent's strength. But Qian Ye in front of him, he couldn't feel it. Aizen Sōsuke doesn't know how strong Qian Ye is. Qian Ye just stood there lightly. Let him have a feeling of nothingness, it looks like ordinary people. But every time Aizen Sōsuke launched an attack, Qian Ye was able to completely withstand his huge Reiatsu attack. What exactly is going on? Aizen Sōsuke couldn't understand, the feeling that everything was in control in the past has disappeared now. Aizen Sōsuke lost control of Qian Ye in front of him. He didn't dare to delay any longer. He wanted to kill Qian Ye in front of him while he hadn't shaken. So he disappeared in place, and the long knife slashed towards Qian Ye. Qian Ye held Xiaoju in his hand, just like that, resisting Aizen Sōsuke's attack. At this moment, Xiaoju appeared like a knife, and even Qian Ye didn't have Bankai, nor did he have the phantom of the 7-color bird. Looks like an ordinary person, holding an ordinary knife. But in this state, no matter how Aizen Tomosuke attacks, he can't hurt the light 7-color bird phantom. On the contrary, Qian Ye took a fancy to his shoulder in an instant, and a bloody arrow flew out. Aizen Sōsuke quickly retreated back and stood on a high place. Before Aizen Sōsuke could speak, Qian Ye had already come to him, raised a knife and slashed at him. Aizen Sōsuke quickly resisted. At this time, a mountain next to Aizen Tomosuke was injured by the spare force of the knife, and it suddenly turned into rubble. Feeling the powerful power of Qian Ye, Aizen suddenly panicked. Aizen Sōsuke didn't understand that he had evolved to such a point, and became so powerful, how could he still be so vulnerable in front of Qian Ye? Constantly resisting Qian Ye's seemingly very ordinary attack, but it seemed that the entire sky was suppressed. How can you have such a powerful force? This is impossible. How did you do it? You have just become a transcendent. Why can you do such a thing? Aizen Sōsuke kept resisting Qian Ye's attack, still talking endlessly. Chapter 393. Aizen evolves again. Qian Ye's new Bankai. Advertise here. Qian Ye slashed Aizen Sōsuke away. Aizen Sōsuke adjusted his figure in the air, and then stood there. Looking at Qian Ye in surprise, he really didn't believe that things would be like this. But Qian Ye in front of him was just like that. He proved all this with great strength without saying a word, but he was actually much better than Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Tomosuke, who couldn't accept it, howled again. His neck began to twist, the gap on his forehead gradually opened, and an eyeball appeared there. His other two eyeballs were rolled up, and Aizen Sōsuke seemed to be suffering tremendously. Suddenly his neck clicked, and Aizen Tomosuke stood still. Qian Ye just looked at Aizen Sōsuke with no joy or sorrow. After a while, Aizen Sōsuke's head shook again. But this time there was no sound of howling. The eyes on Aizen Sōsuke's forehead had stabilized, and the remaining two eyes were focused on Qian Ye's body again. Aizen Sōsuke's body began to appear black roads, and the wings behind him began to slowly stretch out. In a short period of time, he has completed another evolution. Aizen Sōsuke finally felt the strength of Qian Ye. It turned out that Qian Ye didn't have Reiatsu, but the muscles that contained the spirit teeth in the body. In short, it strengthened the strength and speed of Qian Ye's body. So Aizen Sōsuke couldn't feel the existence of Qian Ye, Reiatsu. Knowing the reason, Aizen Sōsuke gradually calmed down and looked at Qian Ye. Unexpectedly, the direction of your evolution is to strengthen your physical body and give up your spiritual power. It's ridiculous. As Shinigami, you don't have any spiritual power. Qian Ye was slightly surprised when he heard what Aizen Sōsuke said. He originally thought Aizen Sōsuke couldn't see what was going on with him. But I didn't expect that Aizen Sōsuke's strength improved again after a brief change. Aizen Sōsuke laughed loudly, and it feels great to know everything. The feeling that Qian Ye brought to him just now was completely out of his control, making his heart full of panic. This time, I finally understood the truth of the matter. Qian Ye's strength, as long as he found the reason, he would have a way to overcome it. Waving the knife in his hand, he continued to slash towards Qian Ye. At this time, Aizen Sōsuke's strength once again improved, and he was able to reach the strength to compete with Qian Ye. Qian Ye brandished a knife to resist Aizen Sōsuke's attack on him. Qian Ye, you can't beat me anymore. After evolving again, I have reached a new height. Now that I have felt the presence of your energy, you can no longer beat me like just now. Qian Ye smiled, then stepped back. You seem to have forgotten a very important thing. Aizen Sōsuke was taken aback, then looked at Qian Ye and said, "What's the matter? I don't have Bankai yet." Hearing Qian Ye's words, Aizen Sōsuke was taken aback, his face changed drastically. Looking at an ordinary long knife in Qian Ye's hand. Can you still be Bankai in your state? Qian Ye said lightly. I am Shinigami. Speaking of, Qian Ye's sword pointed forward, and then sang there. Bankai, 9 feathers and phoenix. Following Qian Ye's Bankai, his sword began to change its appearance, and saw that the blade turned crimson. For flowers, it still looks like a knife. It's much narrower. I don't know what kind of flame it is. It seems that the flame has life. In front of him, I don't know whether it is cold or hot, which is the unacceptable feeling. At this moment, Qian Ye's appearance also changed. His body was wrapped in a fire phoenix, and his clothes became fiery red. It looks exactly the same color as the knife, and the hair is starting to grow. Seeing Qian Ye's change, Aizen Sōsuke was stunned for a moment. He once again lost his feeling for Qian Ye. Point 0. Can't see where Qian Ye's strength lies. Aizen Sōsuke knew in his heart that this proved that Qian Ye had once again risen to a higher level of existence than him. Aizen Sōsuke really couldn't accept such a change, and once again raised the knife in his hand and slashed towards Qian Ye. Qian Ye gently waved his fiery red knife and said, 9 phoenixes return to 1. I saw 9 phoenixes flying out of this knife, and then merged into one, turning into a very small blood-red phoenix, and then flew towards Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen Sōsuke could no longer avoid it. When the fire phoenix penetrated his chest, he finally knew what the fire phoenix was. I also know what the blood red on Qian Ye's knife is. It is the blood that the overbearing power is completely formed by the blood condensing. The blood full of great power has turned into 9 phoenixes, the power of condensing together. Aizen Tomosuke couldn't defend at all, his entire body was swallowed by red light, and everything was calm. Just when I thought it was over, at this time I heard the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Qian Ye looked there and saw Aizen Sōsuke, who had returned to his original appearance, just fell down there. Where? Chapter 394. Qian Ye fought so hard. Aizen sentenced to 18,000 years. Advertise here. And the hole in Aizen Sōsuke's body burned out by the blood phoenix is rapidly regenerating. Qian Ye flashed and came to him. Qian Ye smiled and said to Aizen, Aizen, do you want to continue to regenerate? But what's the point? However, when Qian Ye raised the knife again to cut away at Aizen Sōsuke, Qian Ye suddenly felt a burst of strength. And Qian Ye could no longer hold onto his body and fell to the ground, feeling a sense of powerlessness. Only then did Qian Ye really feel that his body had already been overdrawn. Seeing 680 inches with Qian Ye lying on the ground and Aizen Sōsuke who was gradually recovering, he laughed with a half-cut blade in his hand. Unexpectedly, Qian Ye, I am born again. And I have reached the same height as you again, have you seen the knife in my hand? He has disappeared, proving that I no longer need it, and the new soul knife has been completely integrated into my body. Ha ha ha, Qian Ye, you lost again this time. Just when Aizen Sōsuke burst into laughter, a blue flame burst out of his chest. As the flame pierced out, many blue flames pierced through other parts of Aizen Sōsuke's body at the same time. Aizen Sōsuke panicked, feeling the power of the flame and said, the power of the seal. Yes, this is the power of the seal. Aizen Sōsuke turned his head and looked at where the sound was coming from. I saw Puyuan Kazuki standing there and looking at him. When did you plant the sealing power on me? Puyuan Kazuki said flatly. I don't know how strong your strength is, and you dare to let me get close to your body twice. After touching your body twice, I have already touched the seal inside your body. It's just that the power of the seal can only occur when you are weak. As Puyuan Kazuki said, he turned his head and glanced at Qian Ye who was lying on the ground and said, thanks to you, Qian Ye. Without you, Aizen Sōsuke has been forced to this point, and he is already weak to the extreme. Now Hōgyoku no longer recognizes his power. However, Aizen Sōsuke laughed loudly, ha 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 ha. It's just a mere seal, how could it be possible to seal my power? I'm too underestimated. Aizen Sōsuke, who was about to move, suddenly felt the white armor on his arm slowly fall off. Seeing my arm return to normal, I was surprised and looked at it repeatedly. No, it's impossible. Puyuan Kazuki looked at Aizen Sōsuke and said, I have already said that Hōgyoku has begun to reject you. He no longer recognizes your existence. Aizen Tomosuke stared at Urawa Kazuki, and shouted loudly, why? Why do you know everything but you don't want to change with me? Ling Palace, are we destined to be ruled by him for a lifetime? Puyuan Kazuki frowned and looked at Aizen Sōsuke and said, but if that's not the case, the existence of the Spirit Palace is the core of this world. If the Spirit Palace is shaken, then Soul Society and this world will cease to exist. Unexpectedly, it is now, you are still deceiving yourself. Soul Society is just the tip of an iceberg in the palace of the Soul King. You are all living in lies, and only I know the truth. You automatically blinded your eyes, being smart. It's really sad. After Aizen Sōsuke said this, the blue flame on his body began to expand continuously. At this time, 11 blue long knives on his back pierced into his back and turned into a giant blade in an instant. Aizen Sōsuke's body is sealed in this giant blade. Qian Ye looked at the sealed Aizen Sōsuke, remembered what he had said before, and slowly stood up. Then he looked at Puyuan Kazuki. As what he said is true. Do you know the truth? Puyuan Kazuki looked at Qian Ye with a serious expression and did not continue to speak. Qian Ye glanced at Puyuan Kazuki, turned and left. But at this moment, the space barrier was broken, and Yhwach came to Qian Ye's side and held Qian Ye who was about to fall. Then he looked back at Puyuan Kazuki, nodded and left here. In the present throne town, Unohana Retsu has done her best to treat all the seriously injured people. Although 4.9 is seriously injured, but fortunately, there are no dangers, and the captains are all saved. Everything calmed down, and Aizen Sōsuke was also handed over to room 46, where he was tried. The judges unanimously decided to let Aizen Sōsuke go deep into the 8th underground hell and confine him for 18,000 years. Hearing this sentence, Aizen Sōsuke laughed wildly. Aizen looked at these hypocritical controllers and said, with your abilities, you dare to pronounce me condemned there. You can't cure my sin, ha ha ha. Chapter 395. Matsumoto Rangaku comes home drunk. Reward system upgrade. Advertise here. After Aizen Sōsuke was sentenced to 18,000 years by Central 46 and confined to the 8th basement level, the entire Soul Society can be considered peaceful. Qian Ye also quickly returned to normal and returned to the 5th Division team's own captain's courtyard. Although the current Unohana Retsu has not fully accepted Qian Ye, it is still somewhat inseparable from Qian Ye and has become a beautiful landscape of Zaraki. Boom boom boom. However, just when Qian Ye wanted to pretend to be unwell and deceive Unohana Retsu's warm embrace, the door of the courtyard was knocked. Qian Ye heard the sudden knock on the door, and was a little dissatisfied in his heart. Where is the cudgel? In fact, Unohana Retsu is not stupid either. He has seen through Qian Ye's habitual strategy a long time ago, and he is just having fun in it, and it hasn't been revealed. Although Unohana Retsu hasn't fully settled down to marry Qian Ye and have children, he does not resist staying with Qian Ye, or even being alone. 23. At this moment, Qian Ye didn't know whether he was in a trance or enjoying, but he had forgotten the knock on the door that disturbed him just now. Seeing this, Unohana Retsu had no choice but to bring her signature peaceful smile to remind Qian Ye. Captain Qian Ye, it must be Matsumoto Rangaku who dared to knock on your courtyard like this. If you don't open the door again, your deputy captain will also break in. Qian Ye also recovered immediately. Others don't know, Qian Ye and Unohana Retsu, of course, also know that Matsumoto Rangaku is really there. Qian Ye also had to walk in and open the courtyard gate. As soon as the courtyard door opened, it was not Matsumoto Rangaku who was caught in Qian Ye's eyes. At this time, Matsumoto Rangaku was not only a little drunk, but he also burped, and a breath of alcohol was also spit out from his mouth. Qian Ye could not help taking 2 steps back as he smelled the strong alcohol. Rangaku, you are. Before Qian Ye finished asking, Unohana Retsu came to Matsumoto Rangaku's side with a smile, and held Matsumoto Rangaku. Qian Ye, let Rangaku come into the courtyard first, and then, see how she became drunk. Qian Ye also murmured, I'm so drunk, and I'm still here to make trouble, I really don't worry. Qian Ye's words were quiet, but Unohana Retsu heard them clearly. Unohana Retsu smiled and said, Qian Ye, this is your fault. You know that Rangaku is in a bad mood, and the knot in your heart has not been opened yet. As the captain, you still let her handle the team. Service. If she guesses right, she must also report something important to you. Qian Ye was also a little melancholy, but I just want to find something to do for her, let her use work to dilute everything, am I wrong again? Besides, you see that she has drunk like this, so she can report to me about her work. What? At this moment, Matsumoto Rangaku, who had just been seated by Unohana Retsu, stood up abruptly and burped alcohol. Alcoholic, Unohana Retsu hurriedly covered his mouth and nose with his hands. Qian Ye stood a little further away, and felt a little better. Team, Captain, Black. Qian Ye looked at it not early, and said helplessly, Rangaku, forget it, even if it's not dark yet, go back to rest after get off work. You will deal with the team's affairs tomorrow. Even at this time, if Qian Ye wanted to deal with the captain of the 5th Division in person, it was obviously not something he could count on. Regardless of whether Qian Ye is an agent or a formal captain, it is fundamentally rare to deal with the team affairs of the 5th Division. Even if Qian Ye went to the team, it was just a symbolic check-in. However, the 5th Division, from the seat officer to all the team members, is also very conscious. They don't need to order and arrange, they all know what to do and what not to do. And under the management of Matsumoto Rangaku, the entire 5th Division team was better than when Aizen was in power, stronger and more confident. Hiccup. However, just as Qian Ye's words were just finished, Matsumoto Rangaku was another burp. However, at this time, Matsumoto Rangaku seemed to be much more sober and no longer stuttered. Captain, I know it's not dark yet. Captain 680, it's not that I want to be lazy and want to go home from get off work for a drink. Sister Wa, please believe me, I really have something to report to our captain. Captain, I'm not drunk, I'm here to report important situations to you. I believe you. I know. Unohana Retsu and Qian Ye also had to respond quickly. What? Captain, Kurosaki Ichigo, he wants to see you, he won't go if he can't see you. Rangaku, did you come because of Kurosaki Ichigo? Unohana Retsu was holding back a laugh. However, at this moment, although Qian Ye was also holding back his laughter, he was surprised by the prompt sound in his own mind. Trigger special event. Reward system upgrade. Special reminder, the host needs to accept Kurosaki Ichigo's challenge to activate. Qian Ye is also a little confused, what reward system upgrade? To be honest, after Qian Ye became more powerful, it was not that his system did not respond, but the effect was too small and Qian Ye was blocked. Chapter 396. Qian Ye knows that the Millennium Blood War is about to debut. Kurosaki Ichigo's challenge, seeking subscription. Advertise here. Of course, Qian Ye still raised some expectations after learning that his reward system was upgraded. The Soul Society and Zaraki now seem to be calm, but Qian Ye actually knows that it is just the brief silence before the war. Others don't know the dangers and difficulties in the future, but Qian Ye is very clear. According to the original plot, the development trend of Soul Society is the so-called 1,000-year bloody battle. That is, the one of His Majesty who claims to be a Quincy Yhwach is about to appear. And Yamamoto Genryu Saijukoku will fight to protect Zaraki, and Zaraki will also disappear. There will be very little left in the entire Gotei 13, and Hueco Mundo will be completely trapped, and the battle will be directed at the Spirit Palace. Although Qian Ye wanted to change something, he also knew that with his current strength, there was still something he couldn't stop and completely change. Qian Ye now has the power of Hōgyoku, and he has surpassed Shinigami's limit. However, based on these, Qian Ye also knew that his current strength was still not enough for Yhwach, who possessed omniscience and omnipotence. If it's just to save his life, Qian Ye might not be difficult. He wants to save the entire Soul Society, Zaraki, and Hueco Mundo, and even the Spirit Palace. It is simply impossible. This is also the main reason why Qian Ye is in a daze. Of course, Qian Ye also hopes that his upgraded reward system can bring him real surprises. Since the system has clear prompts, Qian Ye naturally knows that Kurosaki Ichigo is here to challenge himself. Even if there is no system prompt, this is activating his reward system upgrade. Qian Ye will also agree to Kurosaki Ichigo's challenge. Because Qian Ye also wanted to teach Kurosaki Ichigo, the lucky sun, a lesson and a warning. There are people outside the world, and there are days outside the sky. This allows Kurosaki Ichigo to recognize himself, return to his heart, and make it stronger. Of course, Qian Ye also knew that even though Soul Society had his presence, Kurosaki Ichigo was no longer the only bright spot, but in the future battles, Kurosaki Ichigo was still a big assist. Agree, for Kurosaki Ichigo's challenge, we must agree. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo is not only the lucky son of Soul Society, but also the lucky star of Qian Ye. Now Kurosaki Ichigo is in Qian Ye's eyes, that is the key to unlock him to upgrade and become stronger. Qian Ye even glanced at Unohana Retsu, who was still smiling. Others don't know, but Qian Ye knows. If this development continues, the original Kenpachi in front of him, the original witch, will soon be sacrificed in order to awaken and unblock Zaraki Kenpachi's self-styled strength. Now Unohana Retsu is the woman Qian Ye has secretly set in his heart. Qian Ye naturally will not let this happen. Of course Qian Ye also knows. It seems that if he wants to have it in the future, he has to do something he should do now. Qian Ye has made the decision, but also no longer hesitates. Sister Wa, take care of Matsumoto Rangaku first, and I will meet Kurosaki Ichigo in the team. Unohana Retsu smiled, and there was a kind of laughter that made people obsessed with death. However, although this is somewhat enjoyable for Qian Ye, it is also already immune. Go. Leave Rangaku to me, but you have to bear it a little bit and don't crush Kurosaki. Qian Ye didn't listen to Unohana Retsu's words anymore, but instead used Shunpo. He disappeared in an instant. Although Qian Ye doesn't use instant opening, his Shunpo is almost at its extreme. Outside the 5th Division team house, Kurosaki Ichigo is still ashamed. If you don't come, I will stand there motionless. The 5th Division's seat officers, as well as a group of players, although a little helpless, but they are not surprised, let Kurosaki Ichigo. Suddenly, Kurosaki Ichigo only felt a chill, and couldn't help but shiver. Who is it? I am not afraid of you. I will come out if I have the courage. I will defeat you. Kurosaki Ichigo clearly said that he was not afraid, but he was fully on guard, and put his right hand on the hilt of the black big knife on his back. Kurosaki Ichigo, what you said is true. It's okay to beat me, but why are you shivering? As the words were not over, Qian Ye was already standing opposite Kurosaki Ichigo, not here, smiling and looking at Kurosaki Ichigo neighbors. Captain Qian Ye, I can be regarded as waiting for you. Didn't I know that you were here to excite? Listening to Kurosaki Ichigo's words, Qian Ye also wanted to laugh. It seems that Kurosaki Ichigo has also become a little different, so he lied without drafting. Obviously, he was trembling with fear, but he was concealed as if he was too excited to control himself. Kurosaki Ichigo, why are you so excited when I'm here? I heard that you are staying in my 5th Division team. What are you trying to do? Do you want to join my 5th squad, or do you want me to recommend you to another squad? Of course Qian Ye was deliberately disgusting Kurosaki Ichigo. Even if Kurosaki Ichigo was willing, Jing Lingting would not agree. However, Kurosaki Ichigo said very directly, Captain Qian Ye, I'm here to challenge you. Chapter 397. Kurosaki Ichigo wants to use his strength to break through. The war is about to start, please subscribe. Advertise here. What is Qian Ye doing? He didn't come to accept Kurosaki Ichigo's challenge. Kurosaki Ichigo, are you serious? Qian Ye asked deliberately. Captain Qian Ye, although I know I won't be your opponent, I still have to challenge you. Kurosaki Ichigo also said very firmly. Well then, I'll give you a chance to challenge, but I'm afraid it will hurt a little then. After Qian Ye finished speaking, he resorted to instant opening and ran outwards. Kurosaki Ichigo was also happy, and naturally knew that Qian Ye had agreed to his challenge. Of course, Kurosaki Ichigo didn't hold it to defeat Qian Ye, but wanted to learn from Qian Ye, and wanted Qian Ye's guidance. Kurosaki Ichigo now wants to complete the final solution of Zanpakuto, but it seems that he has encountered a bottleneck that is difficult to overcome. And this bottleneck is how hard Kurosaki Ichigo worked hard, and even his old life could not be surpassed. Therefore, Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to overcome it through battle. 683. Of course Kurosaki Ichigo also knows that, among the 13 guards of Jingling Court, if you talk about combat power, Qian Ye is already the strongest. If you want to break through your limits, Kurosaki Ichigo naturally has to choose to fight the strongest. Kurosaki Ichigo also immediately used all his strength to chase Qian Ye away. Somewhere above the ocean in Soul Society, Qian Ye stood in the void on the ocean, but the soul under his feet was spinning constantly. This is of course the most suitable place for Qian Ye to fight Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo was breathing hard, but he came soon. Captain Qian Ye, you are too fast. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo was not only panting, but also looking at Qian Ye with very envious eyes. Not only is Qian Ye's powerful power Kurosaki Ichigo wanting to possess, but Qian Ye's instantaneous opening speed makes Kurosaki Ichigo scornful. Of course Kurosaki Ichigo also knows that in a real battle, speed is not only an auxiliary role to win, but also to save lives at critical moments. This is not to say that Kurosaki Ichigo is afraid of death, but that he can defeat the enemy only if he does not die. However, Qian Ye asked directly, Kurosaki Ichigo, don't you have the ultimate power of Zanpakuto? Although Kurosaki Ichigo blushed a little, he asked, Captain Qian Ye. Did you get it? With Qian Ye's perception now, of course he also knows that Kurosaki Ichigo seems to have encountered the difficulty of breaking Shinigami's limit. Of course, what Qian Ye hopes is to see Kurosaki Ichigo's combat strength after breaking through Shinigami's limit. Qian Ye smiled and said, neither do I. Kurosaki Ichigo was overjoyed in secret again, and it was also self-comforting. It turned out that the existence like Qian Ye hadn't got the ultimate power yet, so he wasn't too stupid. However, Kurosaki Ichigo also asked curiously, Captain Qian Ye. Then when you killed Aizen before, what power did you use? When Qian Ye saw Kurosaki Ichigo ask this, he said, that is a special method of mine, that is, when my Reiatsu and spiritual power reach a certain level, my battle CDEJ will be greatly improved. Quote. However, this increase in combat power is completely different from Zanpakuto's final solution power. Kurosaki Ichigo originally thought Qian Ye was deliberately hiding it from him, but after hearing what Qian Ye said, combined with Qian Ye's combat effectiveness at the time, Kurosaki Ichigo also completely believed it. Hey, so that's how it is. It seems that the final solution strength I am practicing can be mastered before you. Of course Qian Ye also knows what Kurosaki Ichigo means, isn't he just trying to break through by fighting himself? At this time, Qian Ye's right hand was already holding Mickey now in his hand, and his left hand was resting on the knife center. Bankai. Julianfang. Qian Ye was also fighting for some time, and he didn't really use his Zanpakuto anymore. Chang Chang. With the sound of a phoenix sound, the Zanpakuto in Qian Ye's hands also changed immediately. The knife clock turned into a colorful bird-shaped flying. And, in Qian Ye's whole body, one can vaguely see the phantom of a colorful bird with a single feather. At this time, Qian Ye's spiritual power and Reiatsu had increased more than 3 times at this instant. Originally, Qian Ye's spiritual power and Reiatsu could only be doubled even after Bankai before. However, since Qian Ye touched Aizen's Beng Wangyu, he was able to increase it 3 times. This was something Qian Ye didn't expect at all, and it was another kind of surprise for Qian Ye. Crescent Moon Sky Chong. Kurosaki Ichigo saw that Qian Ye had directly Bankai, not only did not have any fear, but was extremely happy. He also quickly drew out the black broadsword behind him, and directly Bankai rushed towards Qian Ye. However, Qian Ye stood there and didn't move, but stood still and waited for Kurosaki Ichigo's charge. The battle between Qian Ye and Kurosaki Ichigo is also on the verge. The collision of 9 Feather Chain Wind and Crescent Moon Sky Crush also caused layers of waves on the sea under the feet of the two, and the waves were turbulent, like a tsunami. Chapter 398. Qian Ye Heibian Kurosaki Ichigo. The teaching mode of the live version, please subscribe. Advertise here. When Kurosaki Ichigo saw his fierce attack, Qian Ye didn't even move, and was a little angry in secret. Kurosaki Ichigo saw that he was underestimated by Qian Ye, so he was naturally very upset, and Kurosaki Ichigo's hot temper was also standing up. See you. Kurosaki Ichigo rushed to Asaba even more desperately. However, before Kurosaki Ichigo rushed to Qian Ye's front, he was pushed out by Qian Ye's powerful spirit. Kurosaki Ichigo is not easy to be hurt by this. Kurosaki Ichigo took advantage of the force to flip in the air, his black and red crescent rushed into the sky, and continued to attack Qian Ye violently. However, Qian Ye still did not move, but used his powerful sword pressure to counter Kurosaki Ichigo's attack. Kurosaki Ichigo also seems to be crazy, a knife is faster than a knife, and a knife is stronger than a knife. Qian Ye was calmly responding to Kurosaki Ichigo's attack, but at the same time he was paying attention to the changes in Kurosaki Ichigo's strength. Judging from Kurosaki Ichigo's attack power and moving speed, Kurosaki Ichigo is indeed improved. Of course, Qian Ye also saw the drawbacks of Kurosaki Ichigo. That is, Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to break through and improve too much, but it contributed to his wrong mentality. In other words, because of Kurosaki Ichigo's hot temper, it completely affected Kurosaki Ichigo's mentality a little abnormal. Of course Qian Ye also knew that if Kurosaki Ichigo didn't correct his own mentality, even if his strength was improved, he would be defeated in the end. If Kurosaki Ichigo wants to make a breakthrough, it will be even more difficult. Qian Ye can also see that Kurosaki Ichigo is not only good in physical fitness, but Kurosaki Ichigo's talent is also good. Since Qian Ye wants Kurosaki Ichigo to be a big help for him in the future, he naturally hopes that Kurosaki Ichigo can make a breakthrough. Seeing this, Qian Ye also had to give a reminder. Kurosaki Ichigo, if you are so reckless, I don't mind going through the black hole directly on your body and ending the battle. I am not interested in a combat mode like yours. Because of the courage of 4 husbands like you, wanting to make a breakthrough is simply wishful thinking, I think it is better. Of course, while Qian Ye gave a reminder, his attacks were also synchronized. I saw that a colorful bird phantom with a terrifying sword pressure had already hit Kurosaki Ichigo. What? However, Kurosaki Ichigo exclaimed only slightly and quickly calmed down. Although Kurosaki Ichigo was injured, it was not serious. Besides, Qian Ye didn't act against Kurosaki Ichigo, he just wanted to warn Kurosaki Ichigo. However, Qian Ye did not stop because Kurosaki Ichigo was injured. Qian Ye now wants to train Kurosaki Ichigo's responsiveness, but also wants to take advantage of Kurosaki Ichigo to have a meal. This also has to be said that Kurosaki Ichigo is indeed a lucky son, and his ability to react and accept is still very strong. Kurosaki Ichigo quickly calmed himself down after hearing Qian Ye's reminder and warning with action. Don't look at this Kurosaki Ichigo, the learning talent he has is really extraordinary. In the battle with Qian Ye, he could still be busy, and constantly improve his fighting skills and strength. Although this speed is a bit slow, it is indeed slowly improving. For flowers. Of course, what Qian Ye wants is this effect, and after Kurosaki Ichigo can be given to Haibian, Kurosaki Ichigo not only does not hate him, but he will be grateful to him. Because this is not only the battle Kurosaki Ichigo wants, but also knows that this is Qian Ye deliberately instructing himself. In the battle between Qian Ye and Kurosaki Ichigo, not only could he not use his full strength, but he also used some of the most basic styles of play. Kurosaki Ichigo is the most common sweep, vertical split, and diagonal pick of Kurosaki Ichigo, which are obviously difficult to contend with. But this situation is not too long. Obviously, Kurosaki Ichigo is really unstoppable. See you. Kurosaki Ichigo grabbed his left hand and slammed his own face. Of course Qian Ye also knows what Kurosaki Ichigo wants to do. However, Qian Ye's swiftness was even faster, and he came to Kurosaki Ichigo in an instant. Because Qian Ye was also very clear from the battle of Kurosaki Ichigo just now that not only did the current Kurosaki Ichigo fail to break through, but it is not suitable for a forced breakthrough at all. Otherwise, not only will Kurosaki Ichigo not be as good at all, but it will get the better of it. It seems that this matter is also not anxious, everything is better to go with the flow. Kurosaki Ichigo, are you hollow? Obviously you are exposing your own fatal flaw to the enemy. Following Qian Ye's voice, Qian Ye also directly gave Kurosaki Ichigo a live version of the teaching. Even when Kurosaki Ichigo hadn't had time to hollow, he was kicked out by Qian Ye. Kurosaki Ichigo is Kurosaki Ichigo, and he is also the son of luck. Just as Kurosaki Ichigo was kicked out by Qian Ye, Kurosaki Ichigo's bullhead mask also appeared. Where? Chapter 399. Qian Ye calmly dealt with Kurosaki Ichigo twice hollow. Kurosaki Ichigo failed. Please subscribe. Advertise here. With the completion of Kurosaki Ichigo's hollow, Kurosaki Ichigo also let out a loud roar. Roar. Qian Ye also wanted to see how strong Kurosaki Ichigo's second hollow can be and how long it can last. Of course, Qian Ye will not give Kurosaki Ichigo extra preparation time. Because Qian Ye is also about to end the battle, he is not so boring to play dumb with Kurosaki Ichigo. It can be said that Qian Ye can help Kurosaki Ichigo, and only so much. As for Kurosaki Ichigo's future achievements, it will all depend on Kurosaki Ichigo himself. Kurosaki Ichigo at this time, of course, also knew, and Qian Ye gave his warning at this time. Kurosaki Ichigo is of course not stupid, and naturally knows that if he was in front of a really powerful enemy just now, maybe he would really die. However, as soon as the cow head mask appeared on Kurosaki Ichigo's face, Kurosaki Ichigo's entire breath also changed dramatically. Now Kurosaki Ichigo is also surrounded by huge Reiatsu. With Kurosaki Ichigo's every move, huge waves up to hundreds of meters high can be caused on the sea below. However, for Qian Ye, these did not cause any waves. If Qian Ye uses all his strength, even Kurosaki Ichigo at this time is still not enough. What Qian Ye is most concerned about at this time is the mentality of Kurosaki Ichigo at this time. Kurosaki Ichigo, can you still have a sober consciousness now? Can you completely control yourself? Although Kurosaki Ichigo didn't say a word, he nodded to Qian Ye with great certainty. Qian Ye said again, well, you can attack me. Just as Qian Ye's words fell, a scarlet Sero was released from Kurosaki Ichigo's horns and shot towards Qian Ye. Don't look at this simple Sero by Kurosaki Ichigo. If it is now, it is probably more powerful than a nuclear bomb. Bankai. 9-feather chain Phoenix. Qian Ye still only used his own 9-feather chain to fight against the Phoenix, which is enough for Qian Ye to use this to fight against. Boom. In the blink of an eye, Kurosaki Ichigo's red Sero collided with Qian Ye's sword pressure. The sea under the feet of the two of them was immediately hit by a water column of nearly a kilometer, and there was a fault of nearly 100 meters. Seeing a miss, Kurosaki Ichigo attacked Qian Ye in different directions from front, back, left, right, up and down. Qian Ye's speed seemed slow, but it was just right. However, the sword pressure of Qian Ye 9-feather chain Phoenix was no longer a collision, but completely annihilated Kurosaki Ichigo's Sero invisible, even without a sound. Kurosaki Ichigo's attack was almost unbelievable. Even in an instant, Kurosaki Ichigo made nearly 20 rounds. But even so, Qian Ye, who was standing in the air, didn't even move. Of course, it does not mean that Qian Ye did not move at all, because Zanpakuto in Qian Ye's hands was still moving. And with the dispatch of Zanpakuto in Qian Ye's hands, around Qian Ye, hundreds of horrible sword pressures as high as hundreds of meters appeared immediately. These sword pressures, as long as they approach Kurosaki Ichigo's Sero, the red Sero, it will be silently broken. This shows how powerful Qian Ye's sword pressure is in attack and destructive power. However, this is not entirely Qian Ye's ultimate Reiatsu. Even so, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was moving at a high speed, was still injured. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo's whole body had no fewer than 10 stab wounds. Although these stab wounds were not fatal, they also made Kurosaki Ichigo lose the power to fight again. In addition, Kurosaki Ichigo's second hollow was officially over. This is not Qian Ye winning, but Kurosaki Ichigo being completely abused. Kurosaki Ichigo saw that Qian Ye was still not doing his best, but he couldn't fight anymore, and he lowered his head in shame. Such a result, for Kurosaki Ichigo, is not very destructive, but it is very bullying. Kurosaki Ichigo finally raised his head. Captain Qian Ye, is this your power to gain Hōgyoku? It is no secret that Qian Ye has acquired an integrated Hōgyoku, and Kurosaki Ichigo naturally knows it. And the reason why Kurosaki Ichigo asks this is because he is looking for a step for himself. However, how could Qian Ye make Kurosaki Ichigo his wish? No, I haven't used any power of Hōgyoku from beginning to end. Also, the power of 4.9 Hōgyoku, I haven't had time to study it. Of course, what Qian Ye said was both right and wrong. Qian Ye didn't use Hōgyoku's power. But after Qian Ye merged with Hōgyoku, his Shikai and Bankai powers have doubled from the original to more than 3 times now. When Kurosaki Ichigo heard Qian Ye's answer, he was obviously stunned on the spot. Kurosaki Ichigo also knew that he was not too weak in front of Qian Ye. However, even at this time, Kurosaki Ichigo did not set out to study his crescent moon. However, at this moment, Qian Ye's mind again sounded the system prompt. Chapter 400. Qian Ye gets wonderful rewards for completing tasks. Kurosaki Ichigo returns to the world. Subscribe. Advertise here. Congratulations to the host for completing the Kurosaki Ichigo challenge and successfully activating the reward upgrade system. Complete the Kurosaki Ichigo challenge and get a reward, the pure blood of the Quincy. Qian Ye was a little speechless, but also a little surprised. Qian Ye's speechless is the blood of the Quincy master. Does it have anything to do with him? Obviously he is already a Shinigami with the system, and has touched Hōgyoku. Isn't the blood of this quintessence a bit tasteless? However, this seemed to be beyond the control of Qian Ye. At this time, Qian Ye had already felt that he really seemed to have undergone an inexplicable change. It's just what kind of change, Qian Ye is not only unclear, but also unclear. Of course, since the matter is over, Qian Ye can only let it go. Even if Qian Ye is unwilling, there is no way. Blame, my own system of 23 is not only self-assertive, not to be rejected, but also a bit cheating. However, what surprises Qian Ye is that now the rewards of the system are no longer spiritual power, but have become physical rewards. Qian Ye was wondering whether it was the reason why he had reached the extreme Reiatsu and had already broken the limit of Shinigami. However, the system's prompt sound is not over yet. The host activates the reward upgrade system, completes the task for the first time, special reward, the upgraded version of the Quincy All-Knowing Almighty. Special reminder. The host can gradually awaken omniscience and omnipotence in the battle with the Quincy, only the size of the predictive ability, there is no level division. Go. It's another reward that makes Qian Ye speechless. Of course Qian Ye also knows that this omniscience and omnipotence is not the holy ability of Yhwach who claims to be His Majesty Quincy. This kind of ability seems to be a bit powerful, but who Qian Ye is, he is not only a traverser who is familiar with the plot, but also has a system. Qian Ye has no land at all. Yhwach's omniscience and omnipotence are at heart. Moreover, what I got is not the omniscience and omnipotence of Yhwach's original version, but just a flip-flop of the omniscience and omnipotence. There is something special, and it will slowly awaken in the battle with the Quincy. However, Qian Ye still smiled, and just let it go. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo saw that Qian Ye was in a daze and still giggling, thinking that Qian Ye was fighting against himself. At the same time, when Qian Ye looked at Kurosaki Ichigo, there was a momentary picture of Kurosaki Ichigo returning to the world. This should be one's own omniscience and omnipotence. And this god operation. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly said to Qian Ye, Captain Qian Ye. I am going back to the world, so I should tell you separately. Of course Qian Ye knew that Kurosaki Ichigo would return to this world. However, this seems to be a coincidence. I just saw the scene of Kurosaki Ichigo coming back to life, and Kurosaki Ichigo said goodbye to him immediately. If you want to send someone back to this world from Soul Society, in general, you have to walk through the door, and the Kido of Soul Society must work together to open the way for them. However, for the current Qian Ye, it is not so troublesome, relying on Qian Ye's current strength and means. Whatever you want, no matter where you are, you can open up a channel every minute. Moreover, the passage that Qian Ye opened up was even safer and faster than passing through the boundary gate. Qian Ye's affection for Kurosaki Ichigo is not bad, and he doesn't mind working harder, so he sends him back to this world on the spot. Besides, Qian Ye doesn't want to use Kurosaki Ichigo 1 or 2 in the future, it can be regarded as a small favor. What's more, Qian Ye also knows that, in fact, he is in Kurosaki Ichigo's heart now, just like an idol in the real world. So Qian Ye smiled and asked, Kurosaki Ichigo, are you sure you are going to return to this world? Kurosaki Ichigo said with certainty, Captain Qian Ye. I'm pretty sure, I have to go back and hurry up to train. Qian Ye didn't know yet, what Kurosaki Ichigo said about going back to training is nothing more than going back to find Urahara Kazuki's help. Qian Ye smiled and asked again, aren't you going to meet Rukia Kuchiki? No, I have already said 687 goodbye to Rukia. Kurosaki Ichigo also said truthfully. Qian Ye waved his right hand and said something in his mouth, but in the blink of an eye, a portal appeared not far in front of Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo was also a little bit speechless in surprise, but when he looked at Qian Ye, he was full of envy and admiration. Of course, Kurosaki Ichigo also knows that this is the gate through which he can return to this world. Although Kurosaki Ichigo has never seen it or experienced it personally, Kurosaki Ichigo has heard it mentioned by Urahara Kazuki and Yoruichi. Anything like this can only be opened by special means. Moreover, such crossing gates are not affected by detention. Not only do they travel faster, they are also safer. Kurosaki Ichigo is not a twitchy person either. After taking a look at Qian Ye, he hurried to the crossing gate. With the entry of Kurosaki Ichigo, the gateway through the boundary gate quickly disappeared. Qian Ye also avoided a smile, and rushed to his 5th Division team. Chapter 401. Hard Medicine Still Needs Hard Medicine Doctor. The Secret of Unohana Retsu's 3 Daughters Seeking Subscription. Advertise here. The 5th Division Qian Ye's courtyard. Although Matsumoto Rangaku was a little drunk and unconscious, she is also a Shinigami of the deputy captain level. In fact, for Matsumoto Rangaku at this point of being drunk, not only is there no serious problem, but she is also drunk by herself. What's more, Sister Wa, who is next to Matsumoto Rangaku, is not only a master of Kaido, but also a master of drinking. In this case, of course, Unohana Retsu is hard to come by. Soon after Qian Ye left, Nailu, who was out temporarily, also returned to Qian Ye's small courtyard. Nailu has lived in Qian Ye's courtyard ever since she followed Qian Ye from Hueco Mundo to Soul Society. Of course, Nailu only lived in a small courtyard with Qian Ye, but she did not cross the red line at all. Not only that, since Nailu met Unohana Retsu and understood the secret relationship between Qian Ye and Unohana Retsu, even her previous small actions have been corrected a lot. Moreover, the current Nailu in front of Unohana Retsu is more clever than in front of Qian Ye. Although it is not compliant, it is never true against Unohana Retsu. Of course, this manifestation is only in getting along with Qian Ye. More precisely, it was in love with Qian Ye. However, as time goes by, and this time Soul Society has changed due to Aizen, Unohana Retsu also has some acquiescence to Nailu. When Nailu came back, when she saw Matsumoto Rangaku, she was a little bit strange. Inalu also knows the story between Matsumoto Rangaku and Ichimaru Jin. And, now that Unohana Retsu is there is nothing to do with her. However, when Nailu finished greeting Unohana Retsu and was about to enter her own room, she was suddenly called by Unohana Retsu. Nailu, come and help. Nailu was surprised at what Unohana Retsu said. Under normal circumstances, Nailu knew that Jawali would never let her help. This is not to say that Unohana Retsu still has opinions and dissatisfaction with Nailu. But Unohana Retsu is Shinigami, but Nailu is Arankar in the void. This is inherently an insurmountable difference in nature and job responsibilities. Seeing Nailu hesitated, Unohana Retsu smiled again and said, Nailu, why are you still stunned? Hurry up. We have to rush to get Matsumoto Rangaku before Qian Ye comes back. Nailu also ran over immediately and helped Unohana Retsu to hold Matsumoto Rangaku. Sister Wa, Qian Ye, he. Unohana Retsu smiled again. Qian Ye was called away by Kurosaki Ichigo, it should be Kurosaki Ichigo who wants to fight with Qian Ye. Listening to Unohana Retsu's words, Nailu was also happy. Kurosaki Ichigo is looking for a fight, isn't that looking for abuse? However, Unohana Retsu smiled and said, I don't care about Kurosaki Ichigo. We have to get Matsumoto Rangaku back to normal. It won't be a solution in the long run. Nailu said, Sister Wa, what can we do? Anyone who is reasonable knows that Rangaku is buying drunk by herself. We still need the person who tied the bell to untie the bell, but this bellkeeper will never be able to find it again, and there is nothing we can do about it. At this time, Unohana Retsu showed her signature smile. Who said that there is no way, without the original bell, can't we find another one? What's more, the substitutes we are looking for will be better and more attractive than her original ones. Ever since Ichimaru Jin defected to Hueco Mundo, with Aizen, Qian Ye has been secretly entrusted by Ichimaru Jin to send Matsumoto Rangaku to the 5th Division as the deputy captain. In fact, this is not a long-term love, but Matsumoto Rangaku already admires Qian Ye very much. It's just that the original admiration gradually turned into admiration, and even later turned into admiration. For all these changes, Unohana Retsu, who is also a woman, is of course also aware of it. Who said Matsumoto Rangaku admired Qian Ye? Nailu is neither stupid, but also a person who comes by, of course, she can get it right at all. Sister Wa, did you mean our Qian Ye, right? Unohana Retsu still smiled. Who says no? Although I don't want to admit it, who can make Qian Ye of our family so cute and the flowers bloom? There is no other way. Wang Qian Zhao, as long as Rangaku can return to normal, it is worthwhile for me to make some sacrifices. From now on, the entire 5th Division's team affairs will have to be handled by Rangaku. Otherwise, our Qian Ye will not be so leisurely, and there will be no extra time. Nailu quickly said, Sister Wa, understand. When Qian Ye returned to the 5th Division team and entered his own courtyard, he saw Unohana Retsu, Nailu, and Matsumoto Rangaku talking and laughing. Among them, the 2 daughters of Unohana Retsu and Nailu. What did they do to Matsumoto Rangaku, and what they said, outsiders will not know. Qian Ye, you are back. The arrival of Qian Ye was naturally also immediately known by the 3 women. Intestinal. Chapter 402. Kurosaki Ichigo returns to Soul Society again. Yamamoto Genryusai issues a prohibition order, subscription required. Advertise here. Almost at the same time Qian Ye returned to his own courtyard in the 5th Division. Kurosaki Ichigo, who entered the barrier gate, also returned to this world. From this it can be seen how extraordinary the gate that Qian Ye opened is. Grimmjow. As soon as Kurosaki Ichigo entered his room, what caught his eye was Grimmjow, who was lying on his bed and was seriously injured. You really shocked Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo also did not expect that this former opponent would suddenly appear in his home. Kurosaki Ichigo. Hueco Mundo. Grimmjow at this time was obviously very weak, even weak in speaking. What's wrong with Hueco Mundo? Kurosaki Ichigo stopped when Grimmjow had spoken, and asked a little anxiously. Kurosaki Ichigo was also injured at this time, but it was not serious. Grimmjow certainly noticed. 687 inches Kurosaki Ichigo. What's wrong with you? Kurosaki Ichigo shook his head with a wry smile. I'm okay, so tell me what's wrong with Hueco Mundo. Grimmjow said again. Hueco Mundo, is in chaos. Therefore, Grimmjow told Kurosaki Ichigo what happened recently in Hueco Mundo. Kurosaki Ichigo was shocked when he heard it. How can this be? Of course Kurosaki Ichigo also knows that even with his current strength, he can't solve the Hueco Mundo problem at all. What Kurosaki Ichigo has to do now is to quickly pass this news to Soul Society. Therefore, Kurosaki Ichigo was wounded and went to find Urahara Kazuki. After Puyuan Kazuki knew the seriousness of the matter, he immediately opened the door to pass through and sent Kurosaki Ichigo to Soul Society again. Saraiti Gotei 10, CDEJ, 3rd Team 1st Division Meeting Room. The captain of Yamamoto Motoinajisai Shigekuni sits in the first place. However, it is now Kyoraku Shunsui who is the acting captain of the Gotei 13th team. Yamamoto Motoinajisai Shigekuni hit the ground with the cane in his hand. Kyoraku Shunsui, in the future, drinking is strictly prohibited during the day. If I catch you again, it will be more than just hitting you. All the Shinigami captains here can see that Yamamoto at this time is really angry. Of course everyone knew the situation at that time. It turned out that JD Chunshui was lazy again. You were drinking in broad daylight, but you were caught by Yamamoto Genryujai. Although Yamamoto Motoinagi beat Kyoraku Shunsui half to death, he still ordered Kyoraku Shunsui to continue as the acting captain. Of course, everyone knows that Kyoraku Shunsui is lazy, but when the real enemy comes, it also plays a powerful role. Originally, in the whole Gotei 13, if it talks about combat effectiveness, Qian Ye is naturally the strongest. But I wanted Qian Ye to be the captain of Gotei 13, but Qian Ye said nothing. Even if Sanbin Yuan Lujai Chongguo personally came forward to lobby, Qian Ye also refused. The reasons are no different. Qian Ye likes to be free and unrestrained. Of course, Sanbin Yuan Lujai Chongguo also had considerations. It was true that Qian Ye was asked to be the captain of Gotei 13, which was just a shopper, and it was inferior to Kyoraku Shunsui. Of course, what makes Yamamoto Yuanliu Chongguo feel a little relieved is that this Qian Ye not only did not lose the chain at the critical moment, but was also a new force. Although Qian Ye did not want to be the captain of Gotei 13, he also promised to never back down at critical moments. Even at a meeting like today, Qian Ye did not attend, but Matsumoto Rangaku, the deputy captain of the 5th Division, came instead. However, the other Shinigami captains did not object. As everyone knows now, although Matsumoto Rangaku is only the deputy captain of the 5th Division, he actually performs the power of the captain, and all the team affairs of the entire 5th Division are handled by Matsumoto Rangaku. As for Qian Ye, he would check in symbolically if he likes it. If he doesn't have any affection, he would not even be able to check in. However, the current Kyoraku Shunsui is actually the same as it is not much better. It can be said that in order for Kyoraku Shunsui to become a qualified captain, Yamamoto Genryusai is required to train little by little. At the same time, Yamamoto Genryusai is also cultivating Aizen Naneo at the same time. Because Yamamoto Genryusai was not going to let Kyoraku Shunsui handle the daily affairs of Gotei 13 every day. All these tasks will be handled by Aizen Naneo. Aizen Naneo is responsible for the entire personnel appointment of Gotei 13, and the safety of Soul Society. In other words, Aizen Naneo must not only learn all the duties that the captain should perform, but he must also perform all the duties. Aizen Naneo is not only Kyoraku Shunsui's deputy captain, but also a very good documentary. In fact, the whole meeting today came to Kyoraku Shunsui for a drink. No, Yamamoto Genryusai also directly imposed the ban. Everyone listens to me and remembers it well. From now on, be vigilant about fighting at any time, and drinking is strictly forbidden. Chapter 403. Quickmaster appears. Qian Ye hints at Kurosaki Ichigo, please subscribe. Advertise here. After Yamamoto Motonujai issued a complete prohibition order, he even announced it directly. There are no other important things at this meeting, just to make everyone pay attention at all times. If you have nothing else, then end the meeting now. At the same time, Kurosaki Ichigo went directly to the 5th Division team, and asked him to take him outside Qian Ye's small courtyard. Qian Ye was also a little curious when he learned that Kurosaki Ichigo had gone and returned. Of course, Qian Ye didn't think Kurosaki Ichigo would still want to find abuse. Since I don't want to look for abuse, it must be something important about Kurosaki Ichigo. Otherwise, Kurosaki Ichigo will not return on the same day. Mingren didn't know, but Qian Ye knew that Kurosaki was still injured at this time. Just when Qian Ye asked Kurosaki Ichigo to take Kurosaki Ichigo into his courtyard, Qian Ye looked at Kurosaki Ichigo. Qian Ye used Kurosaki Ichigo to see the momentary scene of Hueco Mundo, chaos. Hueco Mundo is in a mess. The Quincy finally appeared. Of course Qian Ye knew right away, what did the Hueco Mundo, chaos mean when the Quincy Master appeared? That is not the 1,000-year bloody battle, it has already begun. However, Qian Ye knew that all of this was one thing, and when he said it, he said another. Of course, Qian Ye would not say, even if he said it now, no one would believe it. So Qian Ye also approached Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo, what is going on with you today? Shouldn't you have returned to this world? Why come back again? Did you forget something? Of course Qian Ye asked these words on purpose. Kurosaki Ichigo is also really anxious, so he said directly, Captain Qian Ye, something has happened. Qian Ye pretended to ask, what? Did Manos Grande appear again in this world, or Arankar? I said Kurosaki Ichigo, although you are injured, now Aizen's 10 has been basically played, and you won't be unable to solve it. Furthermore, didn't our Seraiti Technology Development Bureau find out? Still use you to report the news in person. Kurosaki Ichigo said quickly. No, Captain Qian Ye, not now, it's Hueco Mundo. Qian Ye pretended to be surprised again. Hueco Mundo. What's wrong with Hueco Mundo? Captain Qian Ye, Hueco Mundo has been in a mess. Immediately afterwards, Kurosaki Ichigo took Grimmjow to his room in this world, and told Qian Ye all what Grimmjow said. Qian Ye, after listening to Kurosaki Ichigo, said to Kurosaki Ichigo, don't worry too much about this, and don't have to tell others. Kurosaki Ichigo asked very puzzled, why? Qian Ye said, I'll just tell you this. Even if you report this to the captain will only speak long-term, and it is impossible to send someone to Hueco Mundo to investigate immediately. Quote. The situation of Hueco Mundo is still unclear, and it is more important for our soul society to take a rest as soon as possible and restore combat effectiveness. When Kurosaki Ichigo heard what Qian Ye said, he also knew that what Qian Ye said was the truth. In the previous battle with Aizen, Soul Society also suffered heavy losses and was seriously injured. It was necessary to put rest and recovery of combat effectiveness in the first place. Kurosaki Ichigo is not only more anxious, but also a little desperate. Captain Qian Ye, what should I do? Qian Ye said. You don't need to be too anxious, so let's go. I will send you back to this world first, but you want to go to Hueco Mundo to find out the situation. For flowers. If I have time to go to Hueco Mundo, let's see, Hueco Mundo. Kurosaki Ichigo also knew that since Qian Ye said so, he had no choice but to do so. Qian Ye immediately opened the door to Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at the gate, but said to Qian Ye in a pleading tone, Captain Qian Ye, you must come. Obviously, in Kurosaki Ichigo's heart, Qian Ye has become his backbone. This kind of secret psychological change, I am afraid even the current Kurosaki Ichigo himself has not clearly noticed. Of course, if it weren't for Kurosaki Ichigo's changes, he wouldn't be in a hurry to come to Qian Ye directly. Regarding the turmoil of Hueco Mundo, Yamamoto Motonyagisai Shigekuni also learned about it through the Technology Development Bureau. However, just as Qian Ye said, Yamamoto's decision was to leave it alone for the time being, to restore combat power as soon as possible, and to wait and see the changes. Kurosaki Ichigo was helpless, and after listening to Qian Ye's words, he quickly returned to this world. Of course Kurosaki Ichigo also knows, even as Qian Ye said, if he wants to investigate Hueco Mundo, he must have a helper. When I think of helpers, what Kurosaki Ichigo thinks of is naturally Grimmjow and his comrades. However, before that, Kurosaki Ichigo's first thing to do is to find Inoue Orihime. Let Inoue Orihime do it for himself and Grimmjow to heal all the injuries. Then you have to ask Grimmjow about the situation of Hueco Mundo, and ask more clearly. It can be seen that although Kurosaki Ichigo seems to be a hot temper, he also has a bit of head. It can be regarded as an understanding. Know yourself and the enemy, never let go in 100 battles. Chapter 404. Kurosaki Ichigo is followed. Ibang appears, subscribe. Advertise here. However, Kurosaki Ichigo has to think about it, but he still has to go to Grimmjow to ask more clearly. Kurosaki Ichigo also quickly returned to his room. And Grimmjow did not leave either. Kurosaki Ichigo also asked directly, Grimjiao, can you tell me in more detail, who are those people? Grimjiao also had to say. Ibang. Kurosaki Ichigo looked blank. Yibang, is it great? Why have I never heard anyone talk about it? Although Kurosaki Ichigo has a very hot temper, after the 6 or 8-7 contacts with Qian Ye, he obviously became calmer. Grimjiao, wait for me first. After Kurosaki Ichigo finished speaking, he turned and ran out of the room again. No need to ask, Kurosaki Ichigo naturally went up to Inoue Orihime. Soon, Kurosaki Ichigo also returned with Inoue Orihime. Kurosaki Ichigo's injury was not very serious. With Inoue Orihime's 2-day shield treatment, Kurosaki Ichigo also quickly recovered. For Grimjiao, Inoue Orihime was a little disliked, but it was also on the face of Kurosaki Ichigo, which also cured Grimjiao. The next day, just as Kurosaki Ichigo went to find Sato Yasutora and was rushing home, he stopped suddenly and turned his head abruptly. Because Kurosaki Ichigo felt it, a person stood out behind him. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo was a little lost in thinking because of Grimjiao and Hueco Mundo. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly sensed that there was someone behind him. Not only did he not expect it at all, but he was also shocked. Based on Kurosaki Ichigo's perception now, of course, he also knows that the person who suddenly appeared behind him is definitely not a good kind. Sure enough, when Kurosaki Ichigo turned around, he could clearly see the person standing not far in front of him. This is a man wearing a black coat and a mask on his face. This man looks like Arankar, but it also seems to be a little different. Kurosaki Ichigo was a little surprised, but he calmed down quickly. Moreover, Kurosaki Ichigo immediately pulled out his black sword from behind. Who are you? Why follow me? Ibang glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo coldly, and replied with a little sneer. Azkilro, Ebone, is there anything wrong? Ibang looked at the young man with the orange hedgehog head in front of him, and of course he knew that this was what he was looking for Kurosaki Ichigo. Ebone, isn't this the person Grimjiao mentioned? Kurosaki Ichigo was not only alert immediately, but also very angry. I don't care who you are or how great you are, but what I want to tell you is that I don't like you very much and I am very upset. Kurosaki Ichigo was also really upset and angry at this time. Also, who is happy that someone is following him silently? Moreover, this person was the Yibang he wanted to find, but he didn't know him. However, Yibang was not moved, but said indifferently, I'm really sorry. Can you please say it again? I just didn't seem to be able to hear clearly. I don't care who you are or how great you are, but what I want to tell you is that I don't like you very much and I am very upset. I reject your behavior. Kurosaki Ichigo almost roared this time. Not only that, after Kurosaki Ichigo finished roaring, he jumped up and kicked Ibang's fierce violently. For such a person, Kurosaki Ichigo not only will not be the least polite, but also shows his hot personality. Kurosaki Ichigo's expression of contempt for Ibang and his self-righteous expression made Kurosaki Ichigo even more popular. Kurosaki Ichigo has seen a lot of people like this, isn't it just to find fault? Well, since you dare to come, let me teach you a lesson first, and let you know what the lesson is for underestimating people. To deal with such disgusting and annoying people, Kurosaki Ichigo will not be merciless. Kurosaki Ichigo knows that being soft to the enemy means being irresponsible to himself. What's more, Kurosaki Ichigo judges from Ibang's performance and his own threats in time. This Yibang definitely has the heart to kill himself. Kurosaki Ichigo also attacked, saying, You Arankar, wearing a mask, looks more imaginary. In fact, Kurosaki Ichigo 4.9 is likely to be the first to attack Ebone, and there is another reason. That is, Kurosaki Ichigo doesn't want this damn it guy to attack his family. For the safety of his family, Kurosaki Ichigo must not only take precautions, but also act first. Similarly, Ibang knows what Kurosaki Ichigo is thinking at this time. Don't you just want me to threaten your family in any way? However, you think too much. I am here to find you. I am not interested in your family at all. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo was obviously serious. Chapter 405. I'm here to find you. Extraordinary 5-pointed star necklace, please subscribe. Advertise here. Since you damn it and rude fellow came to me, then I will play with you for a while. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo also raised his black sword. Of course Ibang knew that Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to free his Zanpakuto directly to fight. However, the Yibang at this time, not only did not have any fear, but also burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Looking at making you nervous, I'm here to find you on a special trip. I have to say, you are really narcissistic. But well, I don't have much interest in you. On the contrary, it is you. I must really want to know who I am. Not only that, but Ibang smiled, and after speaking, he stood up straight, and didn't put Kurosaki Ichigo in his eyes at all. This made Kurosaki Ichigo not only widened his eyes, but also smoked above his head. You are a narcissistic family of 23. I am not interested in you. I don't want to know who you are, I'm leaving now. Kurosaki Ichigo doesn't want to listen to Yibang's trembling and madness, and even more does not want to get involved with Yibang. However, after Ibang finished speaking, he looked at Kurosaki Ichigo with a smile. Yi Bang's expression at this time is even more self-evident, full of contempt and sarcasm. Of course, Kurosaki Ichigo also calmed down. I feel that I can't be angry with such a person. It's just that Kurosaki Ichigo's duality is something that he can't even imagine. Of course, others don't know, don't others yet. This is completely severely affected by Qian Ye. Hot for a while, calm for a while. Kurosaki Ichigo at this time naturally also has a calm reason. Not only did he have no acquaintance with this Ibangsu, but he also had no hatred. Although it was this Yibang who followed him impolitely, he did kick Yibang just now. Forgive others and forgive others, even if the two do not owe each other, they are even with each other. Besides, things like today are normal in everyday life. What's more, Kurosaki Ichigo became curious about Ebong after knowing this guy, which may be the Ebong mentioned by Grimmjow. Kurosaki Ichigo still wants to keep it to find out the details and origins of this restaurant in secret. Of course, the current Kurosaki Ichigo is still not quite sure whether this person is the Yibang that Grimmjow said. Kurosaki Ichigo rushed to find Grimmjow to confirm. So Kurosaki Ichigo turned around and left. At this time, Ibang saw Kurosaki Ichigo leaving, so naturally he would not let Kurosaki Ichigo go. Ibang finally found Kurosaki Ichigo, but of course he didn't want to have such an ending. Hold on. If something happens, we can make it easy to discuss. Why should we be so anxious? Kurosaki Ichigo doesn't want to eat this set of ebone, and still turns around and leaves. Ibang did not hesitate, and quickly chased Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo also felt a little troublesome when seeing Ibang chasing after him. You, damn it's troublesome guy, didn't you really follow him in the end? Of course Kurosaki Ichigo also knows, it seems that it is impossible to avoid this guy's follow. Since it can't be used, just face it directly. You bastard, since you are wearing a virtual mask, are you Arrancar? Then you are telling me, what is your purpose for looking for me? Who still wants me to help you avenge Aizen? Then I can tell you that not only did you find the wrong person, but you were still overwhelmed by your ability. It's impossible. I think you guys also know that in this battle, even I didn't have the ability to fight Aizen at all. Kurosaki Ichigo also asked many questions one after another. Moreover, I didn't wait for Yibang to answer, but Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Yibang again and continued to ask questions. You fellow, you shouldn't be the only one here, right? Tell me, who else is there besides you? Who was instructed by you again? You just want to fight me like that, can you get any benefit from fighting me? However, Yibang just said, I can say that I am Arrancar, but I am not Arrancar. Kurosaki Ichigo also wanted to laugh when he heard it. You guy is not only damn it, but also funny. However, at this moment, a 5-pointed star necklace with the length of fingers suddenly appeared in Yibang's hand. Kurosaki Ichigo is also a little more curious. Of course, Kurosaki Ichigo can see this necklace very clearly. It is a relatively small one, and the 5-pointed star ornament on the top seems to be really unusual. This thing is a bit unusual. When Kurosaki Ichigo looked at this necklace, he felt that something was not ordinary. Obviously, this necklace seems to be something very expensive. Kurosaki Ichigo is also a little puzzled. This guy took it out at this time. What does this mean?